All right, hey people, it's August 15th, 2022. My name is Chris Lucas. It's about 12:30 a.m. here in Indiana. Oh gosh, man, I want to say something. Forgot. Oh, never mind, I guess. Let me get the screen set up and I guess on today's show, what I'm going to probably try to do is answer a little bit of this Seventh Day Adventist video. I kind of answered a little bit, but my main point earlier, everyone knows my main point earlier if you watched that video. But I didn't get into some of the things he was saying about Daniel A. And I just want to cover it because I made a video and I wanted him to try to respond to it. You know, I need to pull up one more article on the screen. So I'm going to throw this into the chat room real quick too, because this is a really good article for understanding Daniel 8. I don't know how anyone could read this and I guess arrive at the Seventh Day Adventist interpretation. And just to be real clear, my videos are not meant to attack anyone. I do have issues with the Seventh Day Adventist Church. Oh yeah, let me put one more thing in the chat room. I'm going to put an invite, and people are invited to join. The one thing I don't want is I want to keep the show civil. If you got questions, you can come on, ask me questions, or if you are a historicist and you want to add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to. The main point, and also you can let's say you're someone new and you just want to I don't know, just kind of give feedback, like you don't know much about Daniel 8 and you just want to give me feedback. I mean, actually that would be pretty welcome too if you want to come on and you're like, I don't know anything about Bible prophecy, just to make sure, does it make sense what I'm explaining to you? Because that's part of the reason why I'm doing the show is not just to have some entertainment and dramatic war, which is, I guess, what Jamie seemed to be hinting at too. Because it's like, if I want to do that, I would just quit doing videos like this and go make $1 million being a comedian or something, you know, I wouldn't be doing YouTube. I'd just do a bunch of entertainment. There's this is part of the reason why I have no DJ career and things like that. You know, it's like you start doing these videos about the Catholic Church. First of all, it's like, think about it. If 33% of America is Catholic, people get nervous once they start finding out, oh, you do videos about the Catholic Church, or well, you might offend someone, so we might be scared to book you. And people think about cancel culture and things. So if I really want to do if I really just want attention or something, and that's why I was doing this, just to attack this guy, I think there's just other ways I could go do attention and make a lot of money and have a lot of fun if I was wanting to be like that, be everybody's friend, you know. And so, but when I do these videos, it's like I'm addressing Jamie as a way of trying to also help people, educate people, because I went to a Seventh Day Adventist church. I actually got a couple of their books around here. I should grab them real quick just to prove to people I actually do have their books that they gave me when I visited their church. It's not like I'm lying, or I got it over here somewhere. Yep. Well, I got one here. Okay, I also want to show this too, just so Seventh Day Adventists know. Look, you probably know who this guy is, right? Like, I never opened this DVD case. See that guy? You probably know him. That's Walter Vaith, right? I did donate to this ministry. I got an old video on Odyssey. And so right here, I got one of these books right from the Seventh Day Adventist Church. So they handed me this book. And I also got Desire of Ages. But when they hand you these books, they're like, our prophet, she only had a 3rd grade education. Isn't it amazing? She could write this. Here, you can have it. See, the thing I didn't like, and what Jamie's not understanding is, like, if you lie to someone, you're the one who's in the wrong. So when his church, the Seventh Day Adventist Church, lies to people and says this is a prophet, she wrote this, she only had a 3rd grade education, and they don't tell you, oh, she plagiarized and all this other stuff, they're pushing a lie, you know? And they're continuously saying that she's got the Spirit of God and all this other stuff. So, I just kind of want to, kind of clear this stuff up real quick while people are joining the chat. Hey, Bellinger, if you want to come on, you're free to come on. I don't know if I put the link out there or not. Let me make sure I did. But, I mean, you're free to come on, man, if you just want to, like, because I'll start going through it and reading things. But, yeah. So the thing is, it's like Jamie acts like he's the victim. And you got to remember, I'm the one who got kind of abused by this church, because what did I do? I donated to this ministry, right? As soon as I donated to Walter Vaith's ministry, I see that he's got Eric Phelps in one of the videos. And I haven't even cracked that DVD open, right? Because I'm just going through his website, and he had some video on his website, and I'm watching it. I'm like, wait a minute, Eric Phelps, he's a white supremacist. I'm going to write a message and let him know. So here I am, a guy, brand new, just donated. I'm stupid about prophecy. This happened like 12 years ago. So that's why I'm even, was buying Seventh Day Adventist material. So I'm real dumb about this. And I thought he sounded good. He's talking against the Jesuits. I mean, that's the one thing I knew about, was like, the Pope was controlling the world. And I knew about the Jesuits. And then I stumbled across his stuff. So I bought it because I was curious about what he had to say. And so I'm like, okay, hey, don't you know Eric Phelps is a white supremacist? You might not want him on your show, because it's really hard to preach about the Catholic Church, because everyone wants to label you a bigot. So I thought I'd warn you, because I know when I try to start talking about the Catholic Church, the first thing people go is, oh, you kind of sound like a Catholic hating bigot. They get, and it's like no, it's like they actually run the world. It's in the Bible, it's like the Antichrist papacy, is the papacy is the Antichrist. But I couldn't imagine, if someone's trying to label you like that, and then I go, I'm palling around with a white supremacist. It's like, that doesn't look good. Hey, Bellinger.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Hey, man, how you doing, man?
I've been doing a lot better. I'm trying to get a lot of stuff fixed up and everything. It's been like a total mess, but I'm doing all right.
All right.
Like I said, I don't know how much help I'll be able to, but whatever knowledge I have, hey, I'm welcome to share.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna probably just go play a little bit of Jamie's video, and then just to bring up the points he's bringing up. So let's see here. Let me go back to I think it's about the 38th minute mark, maybe. Maybe it's right around here, somewhere around here.
Matthew 24, Luke 21, and all that. All the other gospels that give you more information about what Jesus is talking about. And the questions the disciples asked Jesus in Matthew 24 means partial preterism is a fact, unless you ignore history. You have to be a partial preterist, very small p, I like to say, be very partially preterist, because the text has to make sense when Jesus is speaking. speaking to the apostles or the disciples. He's describing what happened as the temple's being destroyed, and we know that they escaped when the Roman army surrounded Jerusalem. But we also know he's talking about the end of the age. And here's one more little tidbit about the 2300 days I'll give you, which I've tried to tell you before. That is this. It says that the prophecy of the 2300 days won't be understood until the time of the end in Daniel 8, towards the end of Daniel 8.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. So he says the prophecy won't be understood until the time of the end. He says that's what it says in there. So I'm going to go to, let's see here, the Geneva Bible online. So just so people know out there, who wrote the Geneva Bible? Oh, hey, you might need to mute your mic, Bellinger.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just hear a little bit of echo. All right, thanks. But anyway, he says we won't know. Oh, first of all, so people know, because Jamie says, what are you, Chris, a preterist? And I'm letting you people know I'm reading from the Geneva Bible right here, 1599 Geneva Bible. These are basically the people who invented historicism. You know, they created the first Bible in 1560. So trying to find where it says that he, like, I don't think it says anywhere in here that it's gonna wait until the time of the end. I'm not seeing it because I'm going through here, and I don't know where he saw it's gonna be the time of the end. It won't be known until the time of the end or whatever. So I'm kind of confused. I mean, did I hear that right? I don't think I heard that right. Let me just go back. Let's see what he said.
But we also know he's talking about the end of the age. And here's one more little tidbit about the 2300 days I'll give you, which I've tried to tell you before. That is this. It says that the prophecy of the 2300 days won't be understood until the time of the end in Daniel 8, towards the end of Daniel 8.
Okay, so I don't see that. It says it won't be understood. It says and the vision, the evening and morning which is declared is true. Therefore, seal up the vision, for it shall be after many days. That just seems like it's in the future, but it doesn't say it's going to be time of the end. It says shall be after many days. So, I mean, that's one problem I have with this video. I will give people a quick walkthrough of my interpretation. I just kind of want to answer just this little bit and just show that I'm not. He's like, yeah, and I told you this, Chris. And it's like, I don't even see it in the Bible. Hey, Calvi.
Okay, no one will understand till time of the end. Okay. Josephus said Antiochus was that little horn regarding the 2300 days, and that's where people tie the 2300 literal days to Antiochus. Okay, if you do that, then and Josephus was right that it was supposed to represent Antiochus Epiphanes, then they did understand it before the time of the end. We're in the time of the end now. This is before Jesus returns. So if the Bible's correct.
Okay, so his argument is there's no way Josephus could understand it because the Bible is supposed to say it's until the time of the end. So that's his whole point right here, right? This is why I asked Jamie, just walk me through it, Jamie. Because I'm reading the Bible. It doesn't say nothing about it's going to be sealed up till the time of the end. It just says it's going to be and hey, Bellinger, if you want to chime in on this one, this is where I can't find it in here. I don't know if you can see it in here anywhere. Oh, let me just pull it up.
Yeah, that helps a lot, actually.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're good. Let's see here. What am I looking for exactly?
something about the time of the end.
Let's see here. Let me read through. Hang on. Let me see here.
It's going to be sealed up till the time of the end. So his whole point was Josephus, a Jew who wrote about this in the 1st century. He was the one who, Flavius Joseph is a Jew who was born in 37 AD, I think. And he wrote the Antiquities of the Jews and recorded all these events. And he said the Jews and everybody else said that Daniel 8 was fulfilled by Antiochus Epiphanes. And he said, oh, but he can't possibly be writing about that or know about it because you're not supposed to know it until the time of the end. And Jamie says, we're living in the time of the end because according to his prophet, it's the time of the end. So, because I don't know how else we would know the time of the end because we're not supposed to know the day or the hour. But he says time of the end. I don't know when the time of the end started. So Jamie left that out. Like, how do we know when the time of the end started?
One verse right here for 26, but this has nothing to do with that. It says right here, in the vision, verse 26, by the way, in the vision of the evening and the morning, which is declared, is true. Therefore, seal thou up the vision, for it shall be after many days. But I don't see it has to do with stuff we're going through right now or anything like that.
Right. Like, I don't see like this being like the end day or very last day. And also, I just need to know, how do you know? Okay, like let's say this is called the end day period. How do we know that? Is what I don't understand. It's like, when did that start? Where's Jamie's timeline? You just kind of threw that out there, and I'm just kind of a dumb Bible believer, I guess. But I'm just kind of like, that's why I want him to explain this to me. But so you're seeing the same thing? Like, we're like anyone else in the chat room? Do you see where it's like we can't, like, there's no way Josephus could know? Like, is there any way of reading this passage and go, there's no way Josephus would be able to know because it's not supposed to be revealed? Okay, I don't think no one sees it. You don't see it, right?
I mean, I'm looking right here. His argument makes no sense because if he's saying this has something to do with the end times, this has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either. So,
like, I'm not saying you're trying to be a jerk or anything, but this makes no sense. Like, he says it has something to do with end times. Where is it?
Yeah, and so so it's just so people can understand how frustrating this is to me, because he makes these videos like, well, I told him. It's like, where is the like, golly, man. Okay, so I'm gonna play some more. I'm gonna rewind. Hold on, I'm gonna rewind. I just want to hear this one more time, just to make sure we're not missing something, and I'll let it play past that point. So I'm just gonna go about maybe a minute back and make sure we didn't miss something here. Okay.
The end of the age. And here's one more little tidbit about the 2300 days I'll give you, which I've tried to tell you before. That is this. It says that the prophecy of the 2300 days won't be understood until the time of the end in Daniel 8, towards the end of Daniel 8. Okay, no one will understand until time of the end. Okay. Josephus said Antiochus was that little horn regarding the 2300 days, and that's where people tie the 2300 literal days to Antiochus. Okay, if you do that, then Josephus was right that it was supposed to represent Antiochus Epiphanes. Then they did understand it before the time of the end. We're in the time of the end now. This is before Jesus returns. So if the Bible's correct that the 2300 days wouldn't be understood until the time of the end, then Antiochus can't be it, because Josephus said it was Antiochus. People were saying it was Antiochus during the first century. So that means they did understand it before the time of the end, and the Bible's wrong. So I don't have the verses in front of me, but I can give them to you later.
I like those verses, man. I really would like those verses. Dude, this is just like, it's so insane to me. So I did not miss nothing. Anyone in the chat, I did not miss nothing, right? Like, I'd really like some help if anyone sees something to the contrary to what me and Bellinger are seeing. And by the way, Bellinger is someone's channel I just found maybe a month ago. He's trying to put together. What are you trying to put together? Like a new Geneva Bible, like you're trying to modernize it or something?
I'm trying to get into like the 21st century English. So I have a friend who's helped me out with it, but I'm still open for others to help out because when I try to do this myself, I'm like, new problem. I don't know how to put the grammar in properly. Shoot. So if anyone's still open to help, hey, we're more than welcome for it. Because I have one friend who said help me out. We got a cover already done for it. But yeah, if someone wants to help out, just let us know. We're open for it.
All right, yeah, I should probably put your channel in the chat link real quick so people can find it, and then we'll just kind of continue on with this.
I still can't believe what was going on with that. Like, what the heck?
I'm miffed, man. Like, it's like every time. Oops, man, I got the.
I was gonna say that ain't me.
Sorry, man. I gotta subscribe real quick. I was like, I thought I subscribed to you. Oops. Man,
I think you're subscribed to me on the other account that you had.
I'll figure it this way. It should. Oh, here we go. All right, so I'll drop that in the chat real quick, and then we can kind of continue on with the. Anyone that wants to join in, I mean, I'm just pretty much just playing this video by Jamie, commenting, and then I'll go into my interpretation of Daniel 8.
I think that's a really good argument to why the 2300 days is not literal days, because that's inconsistent.
Okay, I gotta stop there. He says, and that's inconsistent. Yeah, I mean, inconsistent with what, Jamie? We just not with the Bible text, but I'll continue.
Do you start the 23? Why would it give you a time period and you have no starting point for it? It's talking about huge sweeps of time. When it talks about the 2300 days, giving you the whole vision of the cosmos, I would suggest studying that. I've put videos for you to try to help you understand it better. I'm still learning about it, but the thing that nobody pays attention to is that there's two different visions going on.
Okay, another thing is, if someone is like this wrong, where we just watched a little bit of it, how am I to trust you with your videos that you're sending me? Like, I'm not wasting my time watching junk. And it sounds like you're not like the best at evaluating people's arguments. I'm a little confused here, you know. So I'm not trying to be mean, Jamie, but I'm very confused with like your evaluation of like what's a good video. And I work 70 hours a week. I know all the people I know who listen to my show are pretty hardworking people too. Little free time, families, and it's like you got to present yourself in a way to where you're making so much sense. So if you suggest something, we're like, hey, let's go check that out. So I'm just going to continue.
In Daniel 8 and into Daniel 9. And if you don't understand that there's the mare and the cosmos, because you don't see it in the English, then you're going to miss what's going on there. And it seems clear to me that the 490-year prophecy is a portion of the 2300 days. That is, it says it's cut off from the cosmos, the mare is. And the mare is the 490 years. And the prophecy about Jesus bringing the new covenant, which I know you agree with because it's correct. And so how can that be cut off from the 2300 days? The 2300 days are literal, but the 490 weeks are not literal.
All right. The reason why those two can be cut off is because I believe it was done by 164 BC, the Daniel 8. Antiochus fulfilled it. So that's how you can cut it off. And it says days, it says sacrifices, right? Because it says literally, just go look at it. Verse so chapter 8, verse 14 of Daniel. And he answered me, unto the evening and morning 2,300, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Okay, so evening and morning what? Okay, let's go look at verse 13. Then I heard one of the saints speaking, and one of the saints spake unto a certain one, saying, How long shall endure the vision of the daily sacrifice, and the iniquity of the desolation, to tread both the sanctuary and the army underfoot? So we're talking daily sacrifice. So I'm thinking, here's the word sacrifice. So, and he answered unto me, until the evening and morning 2,300 sacrifice. Because this evening and morning sounds like a daily sacrifice. So you can easily add this sacrifice into here, just like they add the words and they add the word daily. Like they added this word sacrifice here, but we know what they really mean. They added sacrifice to be clear, because most people, if you're first reading this and you're kind of like really unfamiliar with everything that's going on, like the whole entire Bible, well, if you see the word daily, you're like, what do you mean the vision of the daily? And so they're just helping you because they're adding sacrifice, so they're talking about a sacrifice, all right? And when you look at the whole context of this passage, so unto the evening and morning 2,300 sacrifices, not days. And evening and morning normally means literal day. So so what do you think of that? Is what I'm saying making sense?
It's making a little sense to me.
Bring up. I need to bring up this other article. See, this article from Bible Archaeology. Let me see if I can blow it up just a little bit bigger. When you read it, like they got all these like footnotes, and he said to me, for 2,000 evenings, and I guess it gives like the Hebrew of it, and mornings, then the holy place will be properly restored. Due to the singular nouns, evening mornings is a more literal translation. So, and what we got over here in the Geneva Bible, they even tell you it's sacrifices. And right here, like this site's really good because it breaks down whether it could be 1,150 days of twice daily sacrifices, which happened within 3 years and 10 days between the desecration of the temple and the restoration. And I think this is all pulled from the Book of Maccabees. I think that's where he's getting all this information from. But he's also going into this how it could be, how they count the year cycle, and it's like you got 354, 354, 384, 354, 354, 384. I kind of don't know how intensive I want to make this video, because I'm wind up having to read this whole article just to explain everything. So I guess he's like saying like in this article, he's saying that it was set up in 167 BC and 164 BC. The temple was rededicated in the 9th month of Kislev 25. And this would also go with what Josephus said. I'll pull that up real quick just to show people you can get this off of. I ought to put this note in here too. Oh man, I gotta go. Hold on. Sorry, I don't have this all set up for everybody.
I'm gonna start taking a look at that because I didn't even know that was even around.
Oh, what this what were you talking about, that article or?
Yeah, because I'm actually interested in this now because I've been trying to get more research in for a little while.
This one might help too. Oh man, sorry man. This for some reason it skipped me off this page I'm trying to pull up with an ad. So now let me pull this one up too. And I'll drop this link into the chat too. So this is the works of Flavius Josephus, Antiquities of the Jew. Like I say, this is a Jew, and you go down to towards the end here. Let's see here. It's like they got it numbered as 6. It says, therefore, the generals of Antiochus's armies had been beaten so often. Judas assembled, that would be Judas Maccabees, assembled the people together and told them that after these many victories which God had given them, they ought to go up to Jerusalem and purify the temple and offer appointed sacrifices. But as soon as he, with the whole multitude, was come to Jerusalem and found the temple deserted and its gates burned down and its plants grown in the temple of their own accord, on account of its desertion, he and those that were with him began to lament and were quite confounded at the sight of the temple. So he chose out some of his soldiers and gave them an order to fight against those guards that were in the citadel until he should have purified the temple. I forgot I should blow this up just a little bit more for everybody. Sorry. Get that as big as I can. Therefore, when he had carefully purged it and had brought in new vessels, the candlestick, the table of shewbread, and the altar of incense, which were made of gold, he hung up the veils at the gates and added doors to them. He took down the altar of burnt offerings and built a new one of stones that he gathered together, not one such as were hewn with iron tools. So on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, which the Macedonians call Apelians, they lighted the lamps that were on the candlestick and offered incense upon the altar of incense, and laid the loaves upon the table of showbread, and offered burnt offerings until the new altar. So now it so fell out that these things were done at the very time of the day on their divine worship had fallen off and was reduced to a profane and common use after 3 years' time. So it was that the temple was made desolate by Antiochus, so continued for 3 years. The desolation happened to the temple in the 105th year, on the 25th day of the month of Apelians, on the 153rd Olympiad. But it was dedicated anew on the same day, the 25th month of Apelians, on the 148th year, and on the 54th Olympiad. And this desolation came to pass according to the prophecy of Daniel, which was given 408 years before, for declared the Macedonians would dissolve that worship for some time. So right here we got the main point of this. And this dedication came to pass according to the prophecy of Daniel. So that's what the Jews believed at the time. Like I said, Josephus Flavius was a Jew. So, and we have him saying it's he fulfilled, Antiochus fulfilled the prophecy of Daniel. And go down here, and now Judas celebrated the festival of restoration of the sacrifices of the temple for 8 days, and omitted no sort of pleasures thereon. But he feasted them upon very rich and splendid sacrifices. He honored God and delighted them by hymns and psalms. But basically, this is what gave light to the festival of Hanukkah. Okay, so the reason why the Jews even celebrate Hanukkah was because, to my understanding, it all has to do with this Antiochus epiphanies, and they believe that, when Judas Maccabees ended his reign, it fulfilled it. Just to my understanding. I mean, maybe I'm missing something. But so we're reading a historic document from a Jew in the 1st century. So we know what they thought. We're looking into the book of Daniel. We see nothing about how no one can know it until like the end days. Nothing in this. So I'm a little bit confused as to what Jamie was thinking. Hey Cheryl, nice to see you. So I guess I'm just going to play a little bit more, and then if we want to talk about something different or go into like this whole interpretation, anyone wants to walk through this or just go on some different topics, we can.
There are years of years. Taking the 2300 evenings and mornings is relating it to the cleansing of the sanctuary, because the sanctuary is not the earth. The sanctuary is the heavenly sanctuary. Hebrews 8 and 9. Read that carefully. The true temple is in heaven. And so, look, if the 490 is cut off from the prophecy of the 2300 evenings and mornings, okay, then that means the fulfillment of the sanctuary being cleansed happens later, way later, and won't be understood until the time of the end, okay, before Christ returns to consummate history. Then we have to understand the sanctuary language and the cleansing of the sanctuary in light of it occurring after Christ's ministry and the new covenant coming, okay? So that means we have to either say the temple services will be reenacted and God will accept them, which makes no sense, considering what Paul says in Hebrews and elsewhere in the New Testament. Or we understand that the sanctuary service represented Christ's ministry, so that when he came, they would recognize him, and it would type what the Messiah would accomplish. And so we should be looking at what the sanctuary, how it represents Christ's ministry and salvation and the experience of salvation and the journey of salvation, and what Christ is doing, like before God in heaven on our behalf, that is making an intercession, and it uses sanctuary language from the old covenant, which is meant to type what Christ does. So this is the fullness of the ministry of God for man to save mankind. So in other words, the thing it's talking about regarding the 2300 days is not fulfilled until well after the cross. And so that forces us to read it in those terms. The Mare is cut off from the cause zone. The 490 years is cut off from the 2300 years. But the sanctuary is not cleansed until way after the 400. Christ brings the new covenant.
So basically, he's saying in 1844, that's when Christ cleanses the sanctuary. See, this is where I was wanting to talk to Jamie. I'm like, Jamie, please just explain this to me, because I really believe, judging by the historicist, which I'm looking at the people who invented historicism. So you can't call me a preterist when I'm doing nothing but reading from the historicists that invented historicism. So since you've got a totally different view than the historicists that wrote the Geneva Bible, the first ever study Bible, I want you to explain your interpretation, since you think it's better than all of theirs. That's it. And so, what the Seventh Day Adventists are doing is they're saying that, like, because I'm up here, I'm asking, like, when's the sanctuary going to be cast down? Because you're saying this is 2,300 years. This whole thing is supposed to be going on for 2,300 years. And keep that in mind. So it's like out of one of them came a little horn, which they say is Rome, which rocks very great towards the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land, which is Judea, Canaan, I saw like basically the Jewish land. But anyway, he says, yeah, he grew up to the host of heaven, which host means the Jews, since they're the people of God. And it cast down some of the hosts, some of the people of God, and some of the stars to the ground. That would be the leaders to the ground, and trode upon them. And some people say stars and host are interchangeable. But anyway, it says, and extolled himself against the prince of the host, from whom the daily sacrifice was taken away, and his place of the sanctuary was cast down. I'm just wondering how for 2,300 years it was cast down, and where does this begin at? And I guess he's saying in 476, but I'm saying if you think Rome is the little horn, how is the Rome messing with the Jews? Like, because they had religious freedom for a period of time under the Rome. So I don't understand that. Before their temple was destroyed, it's like they weren't really under. And then there was a time when they overthrew Antiochus Epiphanes. So I'm trying to get how this is like a consistent 2,300 years, and how the sanctuary was cast down that whole time, and where it was. And I guess if it, like he's saying, somehow it got moved up into heaven, it was on earth, then it gets moved up into heaven. So if it gets moved up into heaven afterwards, but I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know how it was cast down on earth. Like that's just why I was wanting him to explain this to me. And then it's like, and a time shall be given over unto him for the daily sacrifice. Okay, so that means he's also doing something to the daily sacrifice for 2,300 years. And so, yeah, I just don't know. I just don't understand this. So, anyone want to chime in with any thoughts?
Personally, with me, whoa, I got feedback. Personally, with me, I think he's trying to avoid your questions because you have them pretty much pinned down, because you're telling the truth. You're going by according to history. And I don't know that much of Seventh Day Adventists, even though I used to be going to their churches when I was about like 5, maybe 7 years old, as far as I can remember. But with Freemasons, because they're part of Freemasons, they like to confuse. And what he's doing right now, he's confusing the whole entire shindig, if you catch my drift. Because I've noticed they love to do that. That's their main key.
Well, yeah, I think that's why they go from that's why I think they call themselves historicists, because what's the one doctrine you want to confuse the most? It would be the historicist doctrine. How do you do that? If you call yourself historicist and then you misrepresent historicism all the time. To me, that seems like a normal for Jesuits to do something like that. And like you said, Freemasons, you said like to do that. And it's like, and because I'm like, you can't call the people, you can't call, because all I'm doing is just reading from the Geneva Bible. And I brought up all these other old books from here's one from the 1632 by Thomas Beard. He's a historicist. And all these people I'm bringing up right here, they would all agree that I'm interpreting Daniel 8 right. They all wrote about historicism at some time. George Down. We got another book, from I can't remember, Henry Jones. I can't find the date though. I was finding these dates earlier. I'm kind of bringing it up kind of an awkward way, but so I'm trying to figure out all these old books I got up on the screen. Here's one by Henry Jones, 1676, and just various texts, and all these right here just on this page alone. This is all from different authors. Edmund Gurney from let's see here, 1631. I mean, all these authors would agree with me 100%. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Well, I mean, I shouldn't be saying figure out, but so I think that's what he's doing is, it's like he can't be called a futurist, because if he's called a futurist, we know futurist and preterist were invented by the Jesuits to take the eyes off of Rome, because the historicists were calling Rome out as Antichrist. The Catholic Church did not want to be Antichrist, so they invented historicism. And a lot of these authors I also brought up on the screen, they're talking about the Jesuits doing just that, inventing preterism, or they're inventing futurism, and they're going into and attacking Bellarmine and other people, Lacunza, Alcazar, and just attacking them and warning people, hey, they're coming up with these other doctrines to try to muddy the waters, and try to confuse you so you're not looking at the historicist interpretation. And so by Adventists saying they're historicists, see, we can't be the Jesuits because we're talking against the Jesuits. We can't be the Jesuits because we're historicists. But they're not even, throughout history, no historicist has interpreted the Bible the way they're interpreting it. So that's my, hey, Mike, what's up, man? You want to say some stuff?
Yeah, Shabbat. It's my Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, brother, and
Yeah,
it's our
Shabbat too. He's a Sabbath keeper too. The other guy is too.
Yeah, tabernacles. I think a lot of people are doing. I throw a party every year. It's what do? I put a balloon on the ceiling. That's my party. I don't. What do I do? If you want loud, I got potato chips. If you want what? I don't know how to throw a party. But no, I just. Oh, you guys got a lot of words. Futurists, historicists, and I can't even name them. Boy, I saw you and Jamie going, and I just wanted to make sure that you were. I saw where he was reading one version and you were reading the other version of Daniel 8:11, and I just wanted to make sure you were on, that you were seeing that you guys weren't on the same page with that exact text. But I think what you're showing right here, right now, is the fact that you're sticking with, like, my only point was the KJV reads this way, and then if you read anything after KJV, they make it look like the Antichrist on purpose. With the KJV, you can have a choice, like your debate: is it the Antichrist or is it Jesus? But subsequent printings make it like it will exalt itself to the whatever, and it will take away the daily sacrifice, forcing you to make it the Antichrist. But I saw all your ancient books in there where they specifically make the pronouns the Antichrist and have written it in there. I saw that real quick as you were doing the thing, but so I guess that makes my whole point of making sure you've got the right version moot. But hey, Shabbat Shalom, I'm listening.
All right. Hey, Truth Freeze, you want to say? I see you keep popping in. You want to say anything? Add anything? Oops. Oh, hold on. Oops. Sorry, I removed you real quick. You want to chime in, Truth Freeze? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah. I'm following this struggle. You know what? We get so many terms. Preterism, futurism, all that. If you could just sort of break some of it down.
Oh, yeah, I can do it in 1 minute. Preterism is basically, okay, the Jesuits came up with preterism and futurism. The reason why was the Protestants were teaching historicism, which believes it's like a gradual, like prophecy gradually unfolds over time. Whereas the preterists, they want to say, oh no, the Antichrist already came. All this stuff happened in the past. And then the futurists say, oh no, the Antichrist isn't here yet. It's not the Catholic Church. It's out in the future. And they try to make it so where all the things in Revelation are in the future. And they do it that way because if you interpret the Bible where any of these prophecies come true, they start pointing back to the Vatican. That's my understanding of it when I'm reading this. It's like a lot of these things have to do with like the Rome, the Antichrist rising up, the 1260 days. Like there's various books, and I wasn't really prepared to pull those up, but there's various books from like the 1700s.
Don't get off topic. Well, I think so. So preterism it's already done. Futurism,
yeah, most of it's already done. Now some say the whole entire Bible's done. That's a full preterist, and like partial preterists say most of it's done.
And then historicist thinks it's like a gradual thing.
Yes, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I'll just real quick, just so someone can understand. historicism position. There's a site called Rapture Myth. And I don't agree with like 100% of their timelines, because the one thing I don't agree with them on here is the 1260 days, which me personally, I think it might start at 606 and ended at 1866 when the Pope was reduced to just having to reside in Rome. It had all of its papal states taken away. And I also kind of toy around with Isaac Newton's interpretation that it didn't start until 800 AD on December 25th when the Holy Roman Empire was established. So I'm kind of looking into that.
What about Daniel's 69th or some
70th? Daniel's 70th week,
where it talks about the stopping of the abomination, desecration, or maybe I'm mixing it up, but where it sounds like it's fully talking about Jesus stopping. Okay, when Jesus died, the curtain, the curtain was rent in two for the high priest to do the animal sacrifice. That, no doubt about that, that was stopped. But they probably continued on after that until that 70 years after, when Rome in the temple was totally not one stone upon another. That is what really gets me. Is that the abomination of desolation?
Okay, so you're talking about verse 27 of Daniel 9:27, right? Daniel 9, verse 27. When you're saying that, and he shall confirm a covenant with. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. You're talking about you're not talking about Daniel, are you? You're talking about
No, Daniel.
You are talking about Daniel. Okay.
Where when Jesus stopped this animal sacrifice, he did literally. The curtain was rent, but then they continued on, and probably until the 70 AD, when no stone stood upon another on that temple, on the last temple, on the second temple.
Okay, so when I'm reading Daniel 9:27, and he, that would be Jesus, shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week, so in the midst of that last 7-year period of Daniel 70 weeks, in the midst of which would be 31 AD, and I think in April of 31 AD. I'm not really sure how time breaks down between the Jewish calendar and
right.
and our calendar now. But anyway, but basically spring. I'll just say spring. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week. So this 3.5 years. So Jesus got baptized in 27 AD. So 3.5 years later, he got baptized in the fall of 27 AD. So 3.5 years later would be the middle of this week when he's crucified, and shall cause a sacrifice and oblation to cease. So so by his sacrifice on the cross, it stopped. It ceased this. And for the overspreading of the abominations, he shall make it desolate. And to me, this is like the overspreading of the abominations of the Jews for rejecting them and everything. And then they continue to sacrifice even after he was crucified.
Yes.
Or they attempted to. I think they did try to sacrifice. So, and he shall make it desolate even until the consummation is. But you notice here, it doesn't say like as soon as this. I think what trips up futurists who are trying to be sincere, not deceitful, is they're thinking this has to end. Like this has to start as soon as the last 3.5 years are up. But there's nothing that says that this has to happen. It just says in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. It doesn't say, and then, 3.5 years later, for the overspreading abominations, you shall make it desolate. It doesn't say, it just says, and for the overspreading abominations. So to me, it doesn't say that this has happened. It just says it will happen. But so, I mean, to me, he completed this. We don't really need a second event. You know, a lot of people say the stoning of Stephen would be the conclusion of 34 AD, but you really don't even need that, because there's nothing that says anything else has to happen, except eventually he's going to make it desolate for the overspreading of the abominations, even until the consummation is determined. So it says until the consummation is determined. I mean, it doesn't say like it has anything to, this determination has to do with anything with the last bit of the 70th week. To me, there's no time frame here. And then, so if we want to look at the historicist footnotes, we see AC, AD. So we go down here. So these are the guys who wrote the Geneva Bible in 1560. And it says, by preaching the gospel, he confirmed his promise first to the Jews and then after to the Gentiles. Christ accomplished this by his death and resurrection. And so the last part of it about the desolation and all that, meaning that Jerusalem and the sanctuary shall be utterly destroyed for their rebellion against God and their idolatry, or as some read, that the plague shall be so great that they shall be astonished at them. And so all this happened, and and these are the people that interpret and translated the Geneva Bible, which most of the King James was copied from. Because to me, the King James were copying some of the same exact mistakes that they made in the Geneva with a couple of words that were mistranslated. So,
yes, I think that's major. What you just covered. Oh my God. If we focus on Jesus in his point in history, yes, we get where we're supposed to be at.
Yeah, and see, here's one more thing. I'm gonna just mute you real quick because I'm hearing feedback. I think it's from you, Truth Reese. I'll mute you and unmute you in a second. It says 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, thy holy city, to finish the wickedness, to seal up the sins, and to reconcile the iniquity, and to bring everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. So right here's a timeline. It says 70 weeks are determined, thy people, the holy city, to finish the wickedness. So that means all their rebellion against God, it's going to be put to an end, and to seal up the sins and reconcile the iniquity, and to bring everlasting righteousness, and seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Well, he was anointed. This is like the end of the 70 weeks. There's like that basically is your timeline. And then so it finishes with anointing the most holy. So why would I jump down here and think this is going to be about the Antichrist when that verse 24, it says it ends with to anoint the most holy? Well, right here it's talking about the weeks preceding the last week. So right here, I'm thinking, if I'm just reading this, I'm thinking the last week's going to be about anointing the most holy. So I get down here, and he shall confirm the covenant. I'm thinking that's probably the most holy, God, Jesus, and confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. So right here, to me, this is the end of this. So I'm kind of confused as to why anyone would say it's anything different, because that's the timeline here. Right here is the first part of that 70 weeks, 25 and 26, and then 27. That's the end right here, to anoint the most holy. So anyone want to throw in some comments? Or you got more questions, Truth Reese? Okay, silence.
Awkward.
Anyone else got anything to say? Or
Well, quite honestly, the Hebrew root perspective is maybe somebody else is trying to go. It's kind of garbled. I'll hush for a minute.
No, I muted Truth Reads. I'm pretty sure it's the feedback from her. So you can go ahead and finish what you're going to say, Mike. Give your Hebrew roots perspective of it, just to let people know. This is Mike's. Mike's got a slightly different perspective. That's what you want to chime in about, right, Mike? Okay, so this is different from the historicist perspective, and so.
Yeah, because it's Jamie for sure, and I don't know about you. You run out of your 70 years Jesus is at the stoning. You run out of the 70 years, and Jamie will admit that. He still thinks that there's something that's supposed to happen in the future. We see a two-stage with Daniel's prophecy that it was literally 7 weeks of days, and that Jesus's ministry was exactly 70 weeks. We see that is finished, but we see that it took from 457 BC to the baptism by John to be exactly 483 years. So we know that in the future, we know that we're missing a 7-year period. Jesus does not do that in his 70-week ministry. That 70 week of days is complete. We're looking for 70 years of complete. We've got 69 at his baptism. So the only reason we would throw it into the future is because we would take all that you're reading, and you guys are trying to make, like the he be this guy and the he be that guy. This is really going to trip your trigger. We will take the first part of 927 and throw that into the future. But I don't care to debate it. I'm just saying it's
okay. That's fine, Mike. You can,
thank you.
People know that interpretation's out there, and you want to make sure people know there's another interpretation out there, right?
Exactly, and quite frankly, we have good sources on. Oh, and I love.
I kind of froze there, Mike. But if you want to throw out some links, Mike, I mean, I'll share the links too,
Oh, I took screenshot after screenshot, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, use this someday against somebody? It's like everything, as a Catholic, it's everything I knew. And we knew that by their authority, they had changed it. And they say, since so many people, everything that you say about them is accurate and correct and factual. But no, you've got your source. But no, we say take out John 6:4, and we've got sources on that. If you do that, you'll get an exact 70-week ministry of Jesus. But we do know that there's a missing 7-year period. Me personally, because quite frankly, as we're going through that Daniel 8:11 thing, and if we say that the second half, we say the second half of Daniel 8:11, the hymn is referring directly back to that prince of the host that we know. I think you commented that it would be the people of the Israelites. We would take it to mean Jesus, the prince of the host, the prince of the Israelites, Jesus, and by him, Jesus, was the daily taken away, and the place of Jesus's sanctuary was cast down. We think it's referring directly to that, but I understand how you But I understand how you think that would be directly because you can either hit it to the immediate antecedent, the first he that you're talking to, or the he can refer back to the main topic, which is what you're talking about. So yes, you can pick either way, but just notice in your subsequent New International Version, for instance, it does not give you a choice. It reads completely different to where it forces it to be the Antichrist. But no, since we say 8:11 is Jesus, we say 9:27 is Jesus as well. And this whole talk of this 9:27 being the Antichrist is actually new, right, Chris? Didn't it come from Darby and Hal Lindsey, the late great Planet Earth? That's all I had to say about it, brothers.
Well, Hal Lindsey kind of really popularized it. Yeah, Darby. It actually came right in, but this talk started way back during the Reformation. This is the Jesuit Counter-Reformation, is where this talk of like a future Antichrist started. Because, like I said, they invented futurism. That was invented by this guy named Bellarmine. Bring his name up on the screen. Oops.
Yeah, we would look at it like Constantine was the first to come up with it because because he needed he needed the Catholic Church to Eusebius, the Bishop of Constantine, needed it to make Constantine like it was historical, I think is what your word is, that it already happened, and that the church is now God Almighty on earth. But it's funny, Eusebius used John to prove that there was a 3.5 year ministry of Jesus. He used John 2 and 12 as the Passovers, as everybody knows. And John 5 is there's an unnamed Passover feast, but we know it to be Shavuot because it comes right after John 2 Passover. But he used John 5 and said that that's a Passover, and so that there has to be at least a 2-year ministry of Jesus, and that it was probably 3.5 years. But he didn't even use, in the year 325, he didn't even use John 6:4. He easily could have used that to help prove his 3.5 year ministry. So that's why we think it doesn't belong. And there's a couple of other Bibles that don't have it as well. But no, carry on, friend.
Yeah, I was going to say, this website's pretty good. It's called historicist.com. And it's got this article called Origin of Futurism, which I dropped into the chat. And basically, they take a bunch of historical sources. Henry Grattan Guinness, Dr. Guinness up here. He's probably one of the most respected historicist writers there is. From I think he wrote around the late 1800s. Anyway, he goes on to say that the futurist system of interpreting prophecies is now held, strange to say, by many Protestants, but it was first invented by the Jesuit Ribera. So it's like your Protestant church is so flipped upside down these days, because you can walk into almost any Protestant church and they're all teaching futurism. So it's really messed up that the so-called people who are supposed to be protesting the Catholics, I mean, that's what your name is, Protestant. And yet you're pushing a system that was invented by the Jesuit Ribera to help take the eyes off the Catholic Church. But how many Protestant churches do you go in today and they're talking about the Vatican? You know, it's like they don't see nothing wrong with Trump nominating all these Roman Catholics to run everything, to run the vaccine programs. And then you got the Pope pushing them and all this other stuff. Got no problems with it. You wonder why, you know, it's like these Supreme Court judges, why they always side with the liberals or the so-called Democrats. And it's like, well, the Catholic Church is constantly pushing global warming, one world currency, climate change. So do you think these Roman Catholics, even though they might have, say, Republican on them, do you think they're going to go against this guy that they call the Holy Father? So it's so it is just really weird how everything's just kind of turned on its head, and the name Protestant really doesn't mean anything anymore.
So I think so. What a futurist you said was, do you think the Antichrist will be in the future? And you just read that the Catholics wanted to do that to take the focus off of them. I think that's spot on. I mean, if that's what you're saying, right? Or
yeah.
That's spot on, brother. It's spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bellarmine was the other Jesuit that helped push it forward. I think Alcazar, if I'm not mistaken, was the one who pushed preterism. And I think one of them, I can't remember who it was, one of them wrote up under a Jewish name. I can't remember what the Jewish name was, to try to push a certain theology so it wouldn't come back to Rome.
But you know what? You know who's at the head of all this? You know, some say, oh, it's the Jesuits or it's the Jews or blah, blah. But you know what? 90% of Jews, what's called Jews, and that they're fake, make up less than 3% of America, and yet they control 90% of our banking, Hollywood, pharmaceutical, and blah, blah. So does that mean anything?
Well, I think there's a lot of powers, like you say, people behind the powerful people, and many of them happen to be of that ethnicity, but I wouldn't say that it's like, you know, some like one ethnicity is the reason of it. You know what I mean? There's like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, I see. I
think the odds of that, though, are too extreme. The Jews, the so-called Jewish people, make up less than 1% of the population of the world.
Yeah, but they get like 80% of the Pulitzer prizes. I mean, they're like genius people. They're blessed, but no, they don't follow Christ. So
But
Well, I was reading the works of Josephus.
wait. They
Go ahead,
make up
Megan.
less than 1% of America, the world population, and less than 3% of the American. And yet, in America, the country that's held as the hierarchy, whatever. Less than 3% of America, and yet over 90% of the banking, the media, in Hollywood, in blah blah, in America. What are the odds? What does that say?
not one of them is Torah observant, are they? If they're doing that.
Well, see, I don't even know if those Jews are really Jews, and they're all subservient to the Catholic Church, in my opinion. I mean, because look, every single Jew you bring up, I bet you, like, okay, people go Bankel, the guy who runs Moderna, right? Okay, so you go, oh, look, see, Chris, a Jew. Well, I would go, look, here's a video of him talking about how he had a good time with his buddies, the Jesuits. So it's like they're always connected to the Jesuits, and it's like, to me, they always have to they're under them. It's like, in the Jesuits kind of like that, because if they're if you can make it look like they're the ones controlling the world, because because most of people who have tried to debate me on this, and I tried to debate those people, all those popular people you're probably thinking of that push this Jewish New World Order, right? How come none of them for the past 10 years I've been challenging them, even offering them money to debate me? So that's out there too, but there's no more money on the table. You can just if you want to debate me, I'll debate any of you anytime if anyone's listening. If you really think the Jews are in the world, debate me, because I can bring up. Hold on. I will bring up something from because a lot of people don't know this. And let me just kind of bring this. Oh gosh, you gotta find my website. Oops.
Yeah, your channel get banned if you keep on this topic.
You can't.
No, I don't care, man. It's fine.
Nobody, Chris, even you, nobody can construct or explain. Less than 3% of the population of America controls 90%. And you can say it's Jesuit. It may be. And if it's Jesuit, it's still Jewish, tied, and Jewish. By that, it doesn't mean the real Jews. It means, see, that's the problem with
right. It could be the Samaritans. They're the Samaritans, right? Because the Samaritans were a fake Jewish group. You go to 2 Kings 17. Now, 2 Kings 17, what happened? Okay, so the Jews were getting real evil. So God had a judgment on them. They all get drug out. And
5 different countries were sent in.
Yeah, the Babylonians come in, and the Chaldeans. Then they get attacked by lions. Okay, yeah, them too. So they get attacked by lions, and so they bring back one of the Jewish priests to teach them the customs of the land.
Oh, that is
trying to follow that God. And then they start calling themselves or referring to themselves as Jews. And there's like one more reason for it, was when Alexander the Great. Okay, Alexander the Great was when the Samaritans also started claiming to be Jews even more when they saw how Alexander the Great treated the Jews, because the Jews showed them that he was prophesized in the Bible. And so they showed him that, and Alexander took favor to them. And then even offered them that they could keep the Sabbath and all that. Even if they joined his army, they could keep their laws and everything. And went out and conquered. And so when they went out, and the Samaritans saw this, and so the Samaritans really doubled down on trying to say they're Jews, but see, where did they even learn these customs from? Well, they learned them from when they took over the Babylonian. Well, when the Jews got taken out of there, and the Babylonians came in. So those Samaritans, where did Simon Magus come from? He was one of those that were from Samaria, and he wasn't really a Jew. And so they had two synagogues in those days, in the time of Jesus, and it was you had your Samaritan synagogue and you had your Jewish synagogue, and they were always fighting each other. And so my thinking is, some of these people that people probably keep claiming are Jews, I wonder if they're just really the Samaritans, and they're all just kind of working with the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church knows this anyway. And now you got your frontmen. That way, the Catholic Church, just like when they invented futurism and preterism, they did that to take their eyes off of them. Well, hey, one more thing to make me sure I'm not looking like the Antichrist, I'll push this whole conspiracy about the Jews. And see, when they came up with the Protocols of Zion, that's not a Jewish book. A lot of people don't know that. If you read it, it's really easy to figure it out. If I can just find this one part in here, because there's this one part in the Protocols of Zion where they're talking about, like, oh, the Catholic Church is so great, and we gotta, and they're the only thing that stands in our way. I can't. I gotta find this. Because they're basically talking about how they want to attack.
I think Jesuit people and fake Jew, I think they're one and the same. I do. I think they're the same.
But they're probably the Samaritans and not really the actual Jews. And the whole thing about that whole Jew thing doesn't even matter anyway, because it only matters if you believe in Christ or not. So your religion doesn't really mean nothing at that point. Because it's like because all the, like Paul and everybody else, they had to accept Jesus to be a Jew, and then you get grafted in. And what's the true faith? If I'm denying the God of the true faith, how are you even a Jew? I don't even know how these people are Jews anyway. So like the
Pharisees, Sadducees, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and synagogue of Satan, all in the mix. Jesus called them out.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I see. But I don't even think that these the Samaritans, though, is where Simon Magus came from. You know whose bones are sitting inside the Vatican? It ain't Simon Peter. It's Simon Magus's bones. That's why he's missing his feet bones. Because because they challenged. Because it's like in some place in Britain, in Osway, OSWY is where you can find the real, or at least they were there, Simon Peter's bones. The Catholic Church didn't want them, so and so the bones that are sitting in the Vatican, to my knowledge, they're missing their feet. Why are they missing their feet? Well, there is a story about how Simon Magus was challenging people and then fell from the sky. Right? I can't remember. Was it? I think he might have been challenging Peter or something. But there's those stories, that you can find where he's challenging him and he falls to the ground. Well, if he fell to the ground, what if they cut his feet off to save him? I mean, that's just my thoughts, but it's like there's no proof that that's actually even Simon Peter there, and it's probably more like Simon Magus. But that's just my thought. I mean, I'm not really prepared to talk about that. I do know a bunch of details to that, but I don't want to. I mean, unless people want me to go jump on all that. I mean, wasn't really prepared to talk about it. I have to dig that one up real quick, but
there's a comment on here. I actually want to go ahead and say something about this by John.
Oh, sure. Say whatever you want, man.
He says right here, I agree that the Jesuit and the Rothschild Zionists are working toward a one world government. My response to John would be this. It's not just them. They've been playing this since day one, since Satan was kicked out of heaven because he was trying to rebel against God. So when he had that grudge, well, guess what? We're going to have all these problems. They already started a one world religion. They called it Chrislam. I think it's like a Christian / Muslim type thing, what they did. I don't know. But the big ones who are in control of all this would be, and pardon me for saying this, would be the Illuminati. One reason, there was a training video, which you can hardly find. Some actually come out with this. They said that they wanted to do this, and they have plans on doing that banking, etc. They have their grubby little paws in everything, whether it's media, whether it's financial or food and pharmaceutical industries. They have it in everything. So we're experiencing it right now, and it's moving faster as we go about in these end days.
All right, so I do want to read this one part from the Protocols of Zion. It says, "We must always bear in mind that the Catholic Church is the only institution which has stood and which will, as long as it remains in existence, stand in our way. The Catholic Church, with her methodical work and her edifying and moral teachings, will always keep her children in such a state of mind as to make them too self-respecting to yield to our domination and to bow before our future King of Israel." So this is supposedly the Protocols of Zion. So this is supposed to be the evil Jews writing this, but really, you think the Catholic Church is like so moral? It's moral teachings. That, to me, just this one sentence being in the Protocols of Zion shows me that the Catholic Church wrote this. And I think you'd have to be a moron to think that, oh no, the Jews really wrote this. Like, if you can do that, if you're that gullible, I can pull anything on you. So my whole thing is they wrote this that way they can take and push the Protocols of Zion and say, oh, look at the bad, evil communists. And my goodness, it's like who's controlling the CIA and all that. And then it's like I still see them coming, taking over the world. Catholic Church runs, it's like 33% of the country now and runs most of the government. And I think most of us think the government stinks right now. So it's like it's not getting better as it's getting more Catholic. So if it's so moral and it's getting more Catholic, I mean, if it's you would think that we'd be doing better, but yet, things are getting worse. So to me, there's just this one sentence alone being in that Protocols of Zion book, like just throws that whole thing into the garbage. Because most of those people that keep talking that whole Jews run the world stuff, they never want to debate me because I'll bring this up, and they, for some reason, this is my main point. And they don't, it's like they know it and they don't want me to talk about it. So I just want to throw that out there. So anyone trying anything?
You're doing fine, brother. Go ahead, keep going. You're all right.
Yeah, I did. So hey, Truth Freeze, got anything you want to ask or say or throw out there?
Well, quite honestly, what's the girl's name? I don't see the whatever she was saying.
Oh, Polly is Truth Freeze. Yeah, I don't know why she's not showing up on the screen, but she's just like this black box down here.
Yes, Polly. Polly.
Well, yeah, her name's Polly.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I know it is.
but like Polly was saying, like even if this stuff was true, like what do we do with this information now? I mean, do we just teach our kids and we hope it doesn't, what? I don't, we're not gonna. I mean, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah, because this is why I don't even I've gotten so discouraged about talking this. I mean, I'll bring this up, I'll talk about it, but I mean, but part of the problem is it's like, so many people fought me for so long on it, man. I mean, for 20 years, I mean, just like people hacked my website and tore it down. And it's like, I don't even know, man. Like, and I don't know, like they also all seem to be stuck in their same, you've been on Ryan's channel and you can see how some people are just stuck in a certain mind of their certain religions. And they just don't interpret certain interpretations. And man, it's like there's nothing you can say to them that's going to shake them out of it. And so that to me is one of the core problems. And it's really hard for me to look at I'm like, the Catholic Church is Antichrist, but I don't sit there and I don't have all this hatred towards it because I feel like most of the people in America has brought this on themselves by being so passive and just letting it happen and not getting involved, not speaking up, not saying anything. You got all your fat church leaders just doing nothing and just sitting there like you having like an easy 40-hour a week job where all you're doing is reading the Bible and you're but it's like they just want to be cozy. You walk up to them, it's like, hey, how come you're not teaching this? And they're like, oh, I just want to feed I just want to feed them milk. It's like you don't want to give them any kind of meat, don't want to really share anything, don't want to like really open their eyes. And because it's like that's how you keep the money going in. You keep that message as basic as possible. So you get a congregation in there, you offend as few people as possible, add to your church, and just make it like a social club. And pacify people's like make them feel like, yeah, I did the religion thing, now I can just go do whatever. I mean, I think that's kind of what most of the churches to me feel like. And okay, you're going to keep doing that, and it's like it really wouldn't be that hard to stop the Antichrist from controlling our country. You just got to get involved and get out of this whole thinking that, living in delusion, like, oh, this isn't really happening, the Antichrist is future, and I'm just going to keep believing this, and I don't really care what reality is. I think that's most people's attitudes. They don't care about reality. They don't really care about God. They like to think they do. So they like to think they're saved and think they care about God. But I think when it really the rubber meets the road, they don't care about God. They just want to pretend like they care about God
and continue to live in their own little world, basically.
And so that's why I'm like, I'm not scared of the Catholic Church, because if people would just snap out of it, the Antichrist system would fall. But they're not. And I just think everything is being set up because God's given us time. It's like, you guys, what are you doing in your churches? And it's just being all set up, and we can see it. Like, I can point it out to you, and everyone can see it work. And we can see, look at all these Catholics taking all these positions. Look at them doing these things, with the biometrics and all this other stuff and all these different technologies they're pushing on. We can see it, and we can see who's doing it. So, and the big thing is not to just see it happening, because you hear all these truther channels. Look, they're doing this new thing and this new thing, but who's doing it? Let's get to the core of who's doing it. And they never want to get to the core. It's just like, oh, here's this new scary thing they're doing. They're coming up with this new vaccine and this new virus. And who's doing
it? Listen, with the WHO, I would say not just Jesuits, Papal Rome, but no-hide, right? No-hide laws. What we call the who runs the Federal Reserve. So that ties in. But besides that, it's what do we do about it? But it ain't just the Jews. It ain't just the Jesuits, and it ain't just Papal Rome. It's the Noahide and the Jews, the so-called Jews. They're together, peas in a pod.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Well, I still would go back to, it's at the top, it's the Catholic Church, and then there's this illusion that it's the Jews, because the real Jews are the ones who believe in Jesus. The other ones, to be honest, when I'm reading the Bible, I don't see why the other Jews even matter, except for the futurist and all this dispensational nonsense. Like, I don't see why the Jews matter. Why do the Jews matter now?
Do you understand? Who do you think took over Russia and killed 130 million?
The Vatican, under the guise of fake Jews that they use to make people think, look, it's the Jews. Because I just showed you, they wrote the Protocols of Zion. I don't see how anyone can read that and think they did not write the Protocols of Zion. So if the Vatican wrote the Protocols of Zion, why couldn't they put fake Jews in there too, since they're making it look like the Jews wrote the Protocols of Zion? The next step you would take is, okay, this is the Jew. He's doing it. Oh, be scared, be scared. It's not us. It's not the Catholics. We're not the ones who want to take down the Russian Orthodox Church. It's those evil Jews.
So why, Chris, are you opposed to two systems instead of one? Destroying the world. Why are you opposed to it? Not just Jesuit, Papal Rome, and they're big. They've always been. Can't deny it. But also the serpent seed that Jesus called out. You are the synagogue of Satan, your father the devil. The Noahide, the fake Jews. Why does it got to be just Jesuit, Papal? Yes, or wicked.
Because they're the head of it. They're the head of it. It's like, it's like the mafia. You got people that are non-Catholics, but the non-Catholics still have to bow down to the Catholic power. All these entertainers, they're not necessarily all Catholics, but it's like they still have to bow down to
Right.
Catholic power. You're not getting anywhere if you start talking trash about the Catholic Church. You're not going to get anywhere unless you're like controlled opposition, where it's like, okay, I'm looking like I'm talking about them, I look like I hate them, but you really don't. It's but you're not really going to get nowhere if you actually like are out to take down the Catholic Church. Like the Catholic, like I don't think like the Catholic Church is going to let another power really oppose them. I don't even see how they're I just think it's kind of dumb to blame the Jews, because the Jews, to me, it's like they're just people now. The real Jews are already accepting Christ. Like they accepted Christ. I get grafted into them. Why you're not really a Jew? Like to me, it's like saying, okay, so
wait.
So the atheist is a Christian, right? Is the atheist a Christian? Like it's kind of like saying the atheist is a Christian.
Wait, Chris, you're discounting a whole huge, well, small but huge, powerful factor of people that call themselves Jews. They call themselves Jews. They run the world. They run Hollywood. They run the banking. They run the Rothschilds, the banking, the media, all this. And it's not Vatican totally at all tied. And yet they run the world. Less than 1% of the world and less than 3% of America. Pharma, Hollywood, media, banking, Senate. You can't just say it's just Papal Rome. Papal Rome is big. You can't say it's just them. You can't discount those who say they're Jews. And they run Hollywood, they run the media, they run the banking, they run pharma in America and in a good part of the world. You can't separate it and say it's just Papal Rome Jesuit.
You've been watching too much shit.
Yeah, it's together. They're tied. They're the fake Jews Jesus called out. The Pharisees, the serpent seed. You can't discount them because that is the Noahide laws, the Rothschilds, the banking, the Hollywood, the media. You can't rule it out.
All I know is that people that keep calling the Jews out, man, they stay the longest on YouTube, on BitChute. I can't even get on BitChute. But I see all those same people that push that same kind of ideology that the Jews are running everything. They're allowed on BitChute. I'm not. They're allowed on Patreon. I'm not.
On BitChute, yeah, woo. Okay, YouTube, everything's scrubbed. We know that.
Right, but on BitChute, how come they can be on it, but I can't? I was kicked off, and all I did was talk about the Catholic Church.
But if you're anti-Catholic and you can't be on BitChute, that doesn't prove nothing.
Well, really. All I know is but you just said they run Hollywood, but William Hayes wrote
They do. Oh no, wait.
Hayes is a Roman Catholic.
If you are going to tell me that 97% of Hollywood is not run by Jews versus Jesuits or Papal Rome, prove it.
They're front people. You can't. I mean, they're front people. To me, I think it's crazy to think that right here's one of the biggest scams ever, because everyone brings all these people who keep talking about the Jews run the world. Every single one of them I've ever heard of, every single one of them you could name, also bring up the Protocols of Zion, like the Jews actually wrote it. So all these people who are saying there's a Jew world order, none of them say, oh, but the Catholics actually wrote the Protocols of Zion. No, they all keep saying the Jews wrote the Protocols of Zion. I'm starting to see I know. They don't know what they're talking about.
Chris, I don't know exactly how, but I know they're tied together. They are tied together.
Well, they're tied together. Like I said, they are tied together because they want to create a front. Like, to me, they're not real Jews. You could call them Jews and throw them out there, but they're not even real Jews. So who cares about them? they don't believe in God. I mean, that's like me saying,
But
telling an
then wait a
atheist,
minute,
like,
wait a
oh,
minute.
look at that Christian, but he's an atheist. He doesn't even like God, but he's a Christian. But he hates Jesus, but he's a Christian. How's he a Christian? Because his dad was a Christian. That's not how it works. And that,
But
and to
then
me,
wait
that's
a
how
minute,
these
wait a
Jews.
minute.
It's like you
We
can
better
either
define Jew very well. That is a key point. Who
being
is
the people of
Jew?
God.
Wait, what? What?
I mean, because the Jews were. Why did God set the Jews apart in the first place in the Old Testament? Why did God set the Jews apart in the first place? Because
So
he wanted to
so
show the
that
world that this
means-
is my people,
yeah.
right? So in the New Testament, who's his people? It was either the Jews that accepted him and the Christians that got grafted in. That's it. So the other Jews, how are they still his people? How can you still
You know,
call them Jews?
even the word
What's the point of being
Jew.
called a Jew just because your father's Abraham?
Wait. Even the word Jew. It's only one term of one of the 12 tribes. That is a lie right there. Jew. What is that? That doesn't. That Israelite is the word, not Jew, but we go by Jew.
Okay, you're kind of correct on that. But I mean, at the any rate, it's like what they don't even like. I don't even know why they would matter now. If you don't believe in Jesus, guess where you? I mean, yeah, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're gonna burn in hell. So you're not the people of God. The original Jews, like you had to represent God in some way. Like that's why he punished them, because they wouldn't follow his laws, because he needed to have a people that looked like a holy people. And when they weren't being holy, he'd go punish them. Why? Because they're his people. They're not behaving like your people. He wasn't punishing the Gentiles for not being like, not behaving. He was always punishing the Jews for not behaving, because they were his people. But you don't see that today. What happened? What's been happening in the past 2,000 years? Has he been punishing them or doing anything like that? I mean, to me, he doesn't like just go after them like they're because I don't think they're no longer his people. They denied them. Like I guess that's where I'm just having trouble like caring about the Jews running anything, because you rejected them. You're no better than the rest of the world now. I mean, unless you're just saying because the same Jews that rejected him are the ones who somehow throughout time are now running everything in the world, and somehow there's some way you could trace their bloodline back, and I don't know, and to me it just doesn't matter, because you still have to answer to the Catholic Church regardless. So even if they were the ones somehow running the Catholic Church, well, you still have to answer to the Catholic Church. So I mean, to me, it's still like the Catholics, because that's who you ultimately have to answer to. And in Revelation, that sure sounds like the Catholic Church. I can't figure out who else it could be in Revelation 13.
Study on Noahide laws, but on top of that, what you're talking about, I get what you're saying. Like, where, God, give us the answer, because we are looking for it. That God's people, that today that are Jews, they are not God's people. They are not. Just consider them, Chris, imposters.
Well, okay, I'm fine. I'm fine with that word. I'm fine with the word imposters, but like I don't look at them and go, they're the ones really running it, because the Catholic Church could take them down anytime. Like if they were to step out of line with what they wanted, they'd take them out. If they were a threat to anything that the Pope having power, to the Pope, to everyone bowing down to the Pope, if they were a threat to ending that, they'd be taken down. Any Jew, and they'd just be replaced by one that would be subservient.
Chris, don't you think that the papal Rome and fake Jews that Jesus called out, you're the father, you are of your father the devil, do you not think they would be like one and the same? Like they're both together in the same boat. And Chris, we can't rely on them at all. We're going to stop relying on them.
To me, they're no different than any other human being on this earth. You got human beings that sell out. You got, whether they're Jew or Gentile, they sell out to the Catholic Church.
Yes. Yep. That's right.
But I just don't think there's anything. Yeah, I just can't think of anything special about them. They no matter what, they got to bow down to the Catholic Church.
But you keep bringing up, you're stuck on it's papal Rome. I might be stuck on it's the fake Jews synagogue of Satan. But
Why? Because you're
between me and you, we're both on the same boat. We're trying to look for the truth. I'm saying it's not one or the other. It's both.
Well, I'm saying it's both too, and I'm saying it's both because the Catholic Church, just like when they created futurism, which actually your theology, if you say the Jews are at the top, it fits into that whole futurist mindset because they want to believe that the future Antichrist might be a Jew and all this other stuff, and because someone's going to make this so-called third temple and rebuild a third temple because they got to have a third temple, right? So, because you got to have that 70th week of Daniel that was thrown into the futures, you got to have that abomination of desolation and all that other stuff. The Antichrist has got to make a peace treaty. And so, yeah, to have the Jews running the world and maybe have like this Antichrist come up because, right, it can't be Jesus, right? And why are the Jews building a temple to make sacrifices? So, yeah, you got to have this whole Jewish conspiracy so you can make this whole Jesuit futurism thing look real. They got to look like they run the world.
That's never why I even considered Jewish. It's because of Noahide law and Greater Israeli and Kalergi and the Jewish plan. Oh my God! If you look into some of that, Chris, you'll be like blown away if you really look into it.
No, I understand that stuff, but the thing about all those people, they also push the same people that you're probably listening to. I can already tell that if I was to sit there and talk to them, none of them would be historicists. None of them would know about any of this historicism stuff I'm bringing up. They'd all be futurists. I know this for 100% fact. They'd all be futurists, and they'd all be saying that Antichrist is in the future, and watch out for that third temple. And see, so I also kind of bounce out. Am I wrong? But then when I see all the people that are pushing that the whole Daniel 70th week is in the future, Jews run the world, when they're all on the same page, I'm thinking, okay, and I can tie futurism back to the Catholic Church. I'm thinking, nope, the Catholic Church is running this. I'm not wrong because it fits your little Catholic program you guys want to run, where you want to say you create that whole futurism doctrine so you can take the eyes off the papacy, so you can say, oh, that's future, the 70th week of Daniel's future. And so when I'm seeing bad theology and I'm seeing like them pointing at the Jews and I'm seeing the historicists be right and they were pointing at the Catholic Church, I'm going to go with the historicists that were right. Whereas the other people who's got really bad theology that want to take 1 week and be like, I'll put it this way. This is why I think that whole 70th week of Daniel's crazy. If I told you, truth freeze, in 7 seconds, you're going to have $10,000. Or no, let me say in 70 seconds, you're going to have $10,000. And so we wait. And you're like, Chris, it's been 2 minutes now, and it's way past 70 seconds. Where's my $10,000? I said, well, that last 7 seconds, it's in the future. I'm still a prophet, but it's in the future. I mean, I could be a prophet about anything, Hey, man, in 2 hours, everyone's going to be dead. And everyone would be like 2 hours later, Chris, you said it was going to be the end of the world in 2 hours. Well, that last 7 minutes of it, it's in the future. So I mean, so to me, the whole Daniel 70th week thing is just kind of ridiculous when anyone wants to throw it into the future. And so when I see the same people pushing that the Jews run the world and that and they're pushing futurist doctrine, and all that futurist doctrine has really bad theology attached to it, I'm not buying into it. I'm gonna stay with the people that look like they've been right and look like they got this all set and look like they're all, yeah, I'll stick with this and just say that, especially when I read things like the Protocols of Zion, where it looks like they're pushing some Jewish conspiracy, when you can tell by just reading it. You'd have to be a moron or really gullible to read that and not think and not know the Catholic Church wrote that. because it's not the Catholic Church's moral teachings. It's the Protestant Reformation that was pushing against the immoral Catholic Church. If this thing was true, it'd be like, how do we take out the Protestants? How do we corrupt them? How do we take the Bibles out of their public schools? But then when I see that it was the Catholic Church that took the Bible out of the public schools, you can read Pope or President, written in 1841, where it details the newspaper articles and everything like that, pages 246 to 248, and anyone can read it on Google and go look at this book. It's called Pope or President by R.L. DeLisser. And on page 246, it details how the Catholic Church made deals with politicians, Democrat politicians at the time in New York, to take the Bible out of public schools. And guess what? You know, the most corrupt state right now is New York. It's one of the most Catholic-run states. And it's like all these things go hand in hand. You know, it's like, hey, why is our border open? Oh, it's because we're going to bring a bunch of Jews in from the South and control America. No, it's because 90% of the people south of the border is Roman Catholic. So we're going to leave that border open, and we're going to take them, like, just let them in, you know, and then fund them with our money and have the Protestants pay for it with their taxes. You know, it's like, it's just, to me, it's just ridiculous. They got the numbers, you know, it's like everything, man. It's like, so I don't see how the whole Jew thing is nothing but a front, just nothing but a cover, just like
no. You're not looking at the bigger picture, because you're not stepping back and like, who's really? I hear what you said. I really did. You step back. Who is in charge of Kalergi plan? Greater Israeli. Your whites will not be like, no. The bigger plan that the Western world, they will be mixed, whether they like it or not. And why? Who's doing it? What Rothschilds are doing it? You will be mixed. You will not stay, white in any one area. No, not going to be allowed. No. Who's behind it?
I don't know. I don't know how much more proof I can give. I mean, like, I think it's 100% the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, had they not taken the Bible out of our public schools, we probably wouldn't be in the shape we're in. They took the light out of the schools. You know, our founding fathers said the Bible should be the primary reading book, and the Catholic Church took it out.
The Vatican and Papal Rome, they've never been true Christian to begin with.
No, they've never been true Christian, but but that's the power that's doing all this, and they're just using I don't even think those people are real Jews. So I think that the Catholic Church helped invent these people and helped raise them up to a point to where so some people that are gullible will be like, oh my gosh, we got to get scared of the Jews, and the Catholics are sitting there patting themselves on the back, being like, yep, we did a good job. They're going to really believe that futurism now. And because it's like, to me, it's definitely 100% the Catholic Church. I mean, I would love to debate one of these people, like what's his name, Alan Green, No More News, any of those people that want to talk this nonsense. I would love to debate them sometime if they ever have any guts.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, why won't they debate me? They'll debate Jesuit Eric Phelps, who I've called a Jesuit several times, who is a futurist and who basically does help them out. So that's the only time I ever known that one of these people that say the Jews run the world, they'll debate Eric Phelps. Debate me. Let me just like annihilate you and have a piece of you. Why are you guys scared of him? But you'll debate a Jesuit, a guy who I think is corrupt, a white supremacist. I don't, and did a bad job. Tried to look like he was like so good and smart, and then fell on his face, in my opinion, when he debated Piper, and I think that was on purpose. But even that, the people don't even still want to debate. Like, I just don't know why that community is the most scared, terrified community to debate someone. Is those people that say the Jews run the world? They're the most scared community there is. I mean, just my opinion. I mean, and like I said, like everything from what I'm looking at, it falls in line with that whole Jew thing that they promote falls in line with futurism. Not one of them are historicists, but you're going to trust them, and they got this really terrible theology. Because what they told you about Daniel 9, what I told you about Daniel 9, they will never tell you. They'll always interpret it that 70th week is future, and those are the same people you're listening to and trusting when they say Jews are in the world. And they're coming up with this whole all this stuff. Yeah, I know about Noahide laws and all that, but like I said, that's a front. They need that to take the heat off the Catholic Church, just like they needed preterism and futurism to take the heat off the Catholic Church when the historicists were pointing out who the Antichrist is and showing you how you can know that by reading the Bible. So, anyone else want to add things in? I mean, I've been talking a lot.
I would say that you're right on point on everything. I'm just sitting here and going like, okay, let's let them play it out, but you're right on everything. You 100%. Probably a lot better than me.
Yeah. I try, man. I got a couple of friends that are pretty good. Eric777, if anyone wants to check out his channel. I mean, he goes into probably like exposes a lot of the Jesuit stuff that people don't know about. Like, oh, here's one. I don't know if you saw this, Truth Freeze. I'll bring this up. General Holdridge's letter. Oh, the Pope's Commandos. That's what it's called. Hold on. I mean, really, I could really start to really get into who killed Abraham Lincoln, and I could bring up the Brigadier General Thomas Harris, who wrote a book showing that. And Thomas Harris is a Brigadier General who oversaw the trial of all 10 co-conspirators behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. What he say they were all Roman Catholic. He said there was so much evidence you could convict the Pope of being behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Hey, why did we have those laws that prevented a Vatican embassy from being created? Oh, it had to do with the Jesuits being behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. So they created laws so we would end diplomatic relations with the Vatican. And who reestablished those? Ronald Reagan. He removed those laws, and then he reestablished a Vatican embassy. And you can always see him working with the Pope. And we can always see him doing nothing but nominating Roman Catholics. So I just see how this is all still tied back to the Catholic Church. But here we go. Now we got a Brigadier General who wrote a letter to Dwight Eisenhower in January 18th, 1959. So I'll blow this up a little bit. So it says, in summation, a vast, hostile, cohesive body of individuals trained in the use of arms, with access to arms, operating nationally and internationally to impress upon the government and the rest of the people of the United States programs of action representing dire peril to our government and to our entire society. So it's like part 4. Operation subversion of our free institutions through schools, press, radio, TV, infiltration into public office, and particularly in forces where they constitute an armed, tightly organized task force for violence against our people and government, and where they have organized a spy ring to betray top secret documents to the Pope and the commanding general of the Jesuits. So this is a Brigadier General writing this to Dwight Eisenhower. And this is in 1959. We can only imagine how much worse is it nowadays. I mean, so I just want to read this other paragraph. I won't read this entire document, but it says potential armed violence against our citizens, such as occurred in Argentina when the people were bombed by planes from the Argentinian Navy, and like action by such commandos trained under the Vatican, the Jesuits, Cardinal Mindzinski, Alan Doles, General Grunther, who launched a wave of violences and counter-violences in Hungary. These commandos hastened into the U.S. in violation of immigration quotas and without screening are now underground on our soil. They're shock troops, assassins, presumably under the command of General Russell, as part of a foreign legion of NATO, now undergoing training in Fort Bliss, Texas. So they were training in Fort Bliss, Texas, all the way back. This is 1959. And we can only imagine how much worse this is. And Alan Dole's, he was like the director of the CIA. She's working with them. Man, what is going on here? And to me, I don't know. Like I can just keep bringing up book after book after book after book and document after document about the Vatican, and I just don't see. And then I just don't see the Jews running things. I just see them as a face, like something, a boogeyman. Like, we got to create the boogeyman. Okay, let's make sure this Jew runs this. Let's make sure this Jew runs that. That way we can point the finger at the Jew. But meanwhile, okay, what doesn't make sense to me, if the Jews ran everything, you would think that they would have some Protestants they control and some other people, but we never see a Protestant on the Supreme Court. It's all Roman Catholics and Jews, not a single Protestant. And it's a majority Roman Catholics. And, I mean, just when I think about little things like that, I'm like, okay, I can see why the Catholic Church wouldn't let Protestants do anything. But I can't see why, if the Jews run anything, they would eliminate the Protestants out of everything. Now, I can see why the Catholic Church would, but I can't see why, if the Jews ran everything, why are they ripping the Protestants out of everything? That's why I know it's the Catholic Church. Because when I'm watching ESPN radio, and I used to watch that. I don't watch sports anymore. But when I used to watch it, I would randomly just kind of watch a football game and hear someone give an announcement. And it's like, yeah, Bob, when I was at Jesuit University, this. And these are your hosts of all your ESPN shows and your late night talk shows. I mean, all these guys I can... almost all your talk show hosts, to my knowledge, are like Catholics. There's this I could bring up something sometime, man, where you get where it's like they're talking to each other. It's like, hey, I went to this Catholic thing, and they're making priest jokes and things, and it's like, but where are the Protestants on late night TV? It's like, or sports shows, anything. They control everything. My local news, even the little bitty nobody sports people and little news people we got on our little local radio stations, they're all talking about how they went to this Jesuit school in Indiana or that Jesuit school in Indiana. Like, what about where? I'm not even hearing like one Protestant church or school or like regular school. It's all Catholic schools that they're talking about, like as they were growing up, this Catholic school, and or they'll slip in mother that, father this, and father so and so at this church. And so if anyone else wants to say something. Yeah, John, I really don't know much about this whole Khazarian thing. Or when they say the Khazar Jews and things like that. When like, so I guess you're saying that they're not real Jews; they're just the Khazarians, which would kind of fit into what I'm saying about the Vatican anyway. It's like I think they're just propping up some people, calling them, slapping the label Jew on them. Like, there's your real evil people, and that's where your future Antichrist is going to come from. Because it all fits into that whole third temple stuff, and all those people, they might as well all join the Jew hater people. All the people saying there's a future future Antichrist and a third temple. You might as well just, just start either hating the Jews and or it's really weird you're helping them, and it's like that's where your Antichrist is going to come from. But the Follex laws. I thought that was pretty interesting. Follex laws promoted Catholic schools in France in the 1850s, 1860s, 1870s. They were voted in during the French Second Republic and promulgated on 15th March 1850 and 1851, following the presidential election of Louis Napoleon Bonaparte as president in December 1848 and May 1849 legislative elections that gave a majority to the Conservative Parti des Ordures. hope I said that right. Named for the Minister of Education, Alfred D. Fawlux. They mainly aimed at promoting Catholic teaching. Oh, this kind of. So yeah, it kind of fits in with what they did here in 1841. Well, I mean, they didn't make laws, but they ripped the school system apart. Yeah, because you know what? Here, I'll bring up that book since some new people might not even be familiar with it, Pope or President, and just show you real quick. Oh, I'm not going to find it this way. Let me do it a different way.
Yeah, they destroyed so much in this world, it's not even funny.
Pope or President. There we go. I can go to Google and then their book section, and it should just pop right up. I guess that must be a. They must have made a second edition because the first edition's in 1859. And then we can just kind of go down to. See here. Yeah, right here. The Bible in Public Schools, Chapter 9. And just blow that up. And basically, I don't want to read all this, so I'm just going to kind of flip through it. Oops. But I'm just showing you it's there. I'm not like making this up, and it's kind of going into detail. You only have to read about three pages of this. I do want to read one little part of it. Which I think is on this right next page. The Reverend Herman Norton, late corresponding secretary of the American Protestant Society, say that he was well acquainted with a Protestant gentleman who was persuaded by a polite Jesuitical sister of charity to send his 2 young daughters to a popish school whose minds had been previously corrupted by the Archbishop's prayer book, the Garden of the Soul, in the hands of a servant. After a term of 2 years in the school, these girls secretly joined the Roman Church. On returning home, they absolutely refused to hear the reading of the Holy Scriptures or to unite in family worship of their Protestant parents. The agonized father implored them to kneel before the Lord around the family altar, but they remained inexorable and preferred to kneel before the priest in the confessional to the only living and true God. Of similar facts in the United States, there are thousands. Well, that's not really the part I wanted to read, but okay, right, here we go. We come now to the war on God's holy word by its expulsion from the public schools and free schools of this country. In 1841, Archbishop Hughes of New York, he's also the same one who led the riots against Abraham Lincoln that were going to happen about 20 years later, after Lincoln was elected president. He led a bunch of riots where they stomped black children to death at these black orphanages. So that's that guy's background. So anyway, before that happened, in 1841, Bishop Hughes, in effect, offered the Roman Catholic vote for sale at Carroll Hall in the city of New York if the Bible would be excluded from the common schools. Of this movement, the New York Herald of June 20th, 1854 says, the operations of Bishop Hughes on the school question caused the nomination of a Catholic ticket for the Senate and Assembly and had the effect to cause divisions between American and adopted citizens at Tammany Hall. Thus, the Herald ascribes to Bishop Hughes the first church movement in the political affairs of our country by introducing religion into the arena of politics and nominating a Catholic ticket for the Senate and Assembly on the school question. Let every Protestant and patriot remember this fact. 38 schools in the city of New York alone abolished the Bible, and the commissioners were appointed to expunge from the pages of school books all the facts of history which were displeasing to the papal system. Books so mutilated and defaced with black can now be seen at the Bible House in that city. This Bible expulsion from schools began by Archbishop Hughes in the New York legislature, was followed by a similar effort in the McClintock bill in Pennsylvania. 9 states of the Union have made the attempt to expel the Bible from schools, and in California, they have been successful. So, just throwing that little bit of history out, in case some people that might be new to some people. And that's Pope or President by R.L. DeLisser.
That is actually something that's new to me, because when they started keeping the Bibles out of school, I thought it was a new thing, but I was wrong.
Yeah, a lot of people think it. A lot of people. I made a video about it, but I think that channel's long since been deleted. I need to probably re-upload it. Before I started getting into all this literature about 20 years ago, I thought it had. I always thought like you. I thought it was the atheists and the ACLU and I was like, hey, and so I'd start walking up to people, at churches and things, and be like, hey, do you know, it's this. These people took it out. It wasn't the atheists and the ACLU. It was the Roman Catholic Church. Why aren't we talking about it? And it's like, so that's another reason why I don't like almost every single church in America, because the few I went to trying to talk about this, it seemed like none were interested. Even the Seventh Day Adventist Church, they were not interested in talking about this or promoting, the knowledge of this to people.
Because they're Freemasons. King James is a Freemason and everything.
Yeah, I really believe they are, man. I 100% believe they are. So, and it's like, of all people, they hadn't. So I call Ellen White a false prophet, because I think she didn't get some prophecies true, but they have no problems incorporating a white supremacist named Eric Phelps into their ministry. And in none of their churches, when I brought this up and I made videos about it, complaining about it, not one of Walter Vaith never received any backlash, nothing, not a word of admonishment from any member of the SDA church, not one. So how is that? That's why, like you, I really think they're controlled. They're Freemasons, and they're controlled by the Jesuits. And I think that's proof, because that just seems really weird that you say you don't like futurism. Eric Phelps is a futurist. He's also a white supremacist, and Walter, and your church has a bad history with talking about amalgamation of man and beast, saying that certain races of men are abominations, and like the Digger Indians and the Bushmen of Africa. And so you've got this background, and you got this background of Ellen White also having some kind of associations with the KKK. She had some of their books, and so you would think, okay, maybe you're not racist today, but that's a bad look. That's all I'm saying. I'm not like trying to really hammer them too much. I'm just saying I think that's a bad look.
Pretty much, yeah. And what you said right there, the Mormons, they behave the same way, because the stupidest banned cartoon they had was when they're saying, well, the spirits that didn't fight valiantly against Jesus' brother Satan, which was stupid, because they didn't say that he was his brother. They said whoever didn't fight the most violently or whatever, they were cursed with black skin. I'm going like, what? What kind of book you been reading?
Yeah, I really think, man, like I was always amazed on that one Rentz Previs. It was right during the 2012 Republican primary, and he's like, for the first time, there's a Protestant on the ticket, and I think that's progress. Because I think it was Mitt Romney, the Mormon, and man, else was running with? I can't remember who else was running with Mitt Romney, but I was like, that's really the right image for the Republican Party, to have some Mormon that believes that like Jesus is Lucifer's brother, and and I think Mormons didn't they teach like black people don't go to heaven or something?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
So KJV says Chris Lucas, Duell's brother was a patron of Opus Bono Sacerdotale, which was a goat dip for Catholic pedo so-called priest. Wow, I did not know that.
Me neither. That's whoa.
But yeah, KGV says the abortion USA was basically started by Jesuit Robert Drinan, another Inquisition. Well, here's another one for you, man. On that note, $25 million abortion Catholic Church. There was like something about like where the Catholic Church. Oh, I thought I could find that article where they invested like I think it was like $25 million into, maybe I should say Vatican, but they put like $25 billion investment or $25 million investment into abortion. Yeah, right here it is. It's 24. That's why I couldn't find it. Yeah, Vatican invests at least $24 million into the abortion industry. So whenever someone says, "Oh, they're so against abortion," it's like bull, man. It's like the most Catholic-run states in America are also like the ones that have like the craziest abortion limits. Like you can have it like even post-birth or right up to birth. Like you take a state like Rhode Island, 54% Catholic, the most Catholic state there is, and they also got like the most extreme abortion laws where they allow like abortion. Like I can't remember if they're one of the ones that try to have it after birth but yeah, I'm sorry I can't read all these comments, man. When I got a panel, it's kind of weird, man. I'm trying to like at least show you guys' comments, but they may the Vatican has been infiltrated by crypto Jews. Why does the Pope and cardinals wear yarmulkes? They're all Luciferian, whether Jew or Catholic. Yeah, I agree with that, but oh man, I do have a reason for that, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But it's not because the Jews run the Vatican. It's and actually the Pope's got the white one on his head, like as you see in that picture. And you always notice that the Jews are always the ones wearing the black. And I think that like symbolizes that's because he's the leader. So it's like that shows you that who's subordinate to who. It's the Jews subordinate to the Catholics. But like I said, I don't think they're real Jews. I just think they're just a smokescreen to help prop up their futurist fairy tale.
What's funny about the Catholic thing is with those things you were talking about, when I was still in the occult before I got out of it, one soldier came out and said that the whole entire Catholic Church is run by someone known as the Black Pope. So it's funny you actually mentioned that.
I remember John's comment, and I'll read Bjorn's. John says, I am as much of a zealot against the Jesuit and papacy as you, Chris, but I believe there are other agencies now working today with the papal cabal. Spent 31 of 64 years in the Roman Catholic Church. So you probably know a few things then, John. I mean, like, yeah, I'm not saying that there aren't other agencies but I think they control them all, especially through like Operation Gladio. If anyone ever wants to read a really awesome book, it's by a guy. I know he was a Catholic. I'm not sure if he's still a Catholic, but it's William something. Oh gosh, all I know is he's got this book called Operation Gladio by Paul L. Williams. Paul L. Williams. Operation Gladio, and some people have uploaded his audio book, like an audio version, to YouTube, and you might find it. They keep deleting it off of YouTube, but man, you read that, and he breaks down Operation Gladio in the most like detailed way because he was like a former FBI consultant, and just does a meticulous job of explaining how the Catholic Church runs Operation Gladio and everything Operation Gladio is involved in. So, and basically they are involved. So all these other agencies are probably stemming from Operation Gladio. I mean, when you hear that, it's a lot to really get into. I would just recommend looking up Paul L. Williams, Operation Gladio. And if you buy the book buy the book somewhere, or else look up the audio on YouTube. Bjorn says, "Hey, Chris, and your guest, the banning of school prayer in 1962 was the work of the Jesuit. Strange how the drug culture in the 60s ruined the generation and the education system." Oh, school prayer. Sorry, I keep forgetting, man. You got the voice type on, so I know it doesn't really work that good. But yeah, the banning of school prayer in 1962 was work of the Jesuits too. I don't remember all the details, but I know you're right about it. Oh yeah, Tom Ireland, yeah.
They did more than that. The Catholics. Let me read this real quick. I'm sorry. Ireland 600 millions of dead babies in septic tank. Oh, they had dead babies in the walls too. They did, because I remember when my mother and I were studying something like this, where I guess they were trying to take down one church, and next thing you know, in the walls they kept finding infant skeletons. So that's not surprising to me that the Catholics are doing that. That's not surprising.
Yeah,
and those were not just. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the Catholics, they didn't just like sacrifice infants too. They would have basically intercourse with the nuns, and to hide the evidence or whatever, when they gave birth to the babies, whatnot, they just kill them, put their remains in the walls. That's how sick they are.
Yeah, that's right, man. Yeah, they got. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not what I was looking for. I thought that was going to be something else. But yeah, you're right about that. I do remember reading that. But yeah, so there's a bunch of articles and everything on that. So I mean, this is pretty much well established. I won't read through the article. I'll just let people know it's real. People's reported on it. Oh, there's that one where I wish I would have brought this up to. I had Fro, a Roman Catholic, on my show. So anyone that thinks like, oh, Jamie's scared that you're going to be mean to him, well, I mean, this whole show I've talked about Fro's Catholic Church. Fro knows that I think all this about his church, and he still said he'd come back on my show. And I had him on my show for about an hour or hour and a half. And so it's like, if I'm calling his church the Antichrist Church and he came on, and why would Jamie be scared to come on? The Seventh Day Adventist Jamie, it's like making excuses. But anyway, you can talk while I bring this up if you got any other things you want to say. I'll look for something real quick.
I was gonna say, like, if there's anything you're mean, you ain't mean at all. It's called you're standing for the truth. You're doing what God wants you to do. What part of that's mean? That'd be none. And I knocked that over.
Oh, I'm trying to think of what that was they did, man. Like where they took away like the Protestants' kids and gave them to families, and they did it for like 40 years. From like it was either, I think it was like 19, or maybe it was 30 years. I think it was like around 1940 to 1970 or something like that. Maybe I can say children.
I think the 1940s and 70s was the big years for them, to be honest. Because with that, the Illuminati didn't start their full-blown attack until 2000 or 2001.
Yeah, this is it, man. I'll just play a little bit of this.
1970s, the Catholic Church and the government in Spain allegedly trafficked between 30,000 to some say 300,000 children. So what happened is at this time, Francisco Franco was the leader of the country. He was an evil dictator, as most of you know. And what he would do is if he had anyone who opposed his views, okay, or criticized his views, he would target those people, and he would have the Catholic Church literally take these babies right after they were born and then sell them to Catholic families within Spain.
You know, Lucas made a great point about this while in our production meeting. He's like, you know, this is a great case of projection, because how long did the Catholic Church say about the Jews, oh, they'll take your babies, right? Meanwhile, apparently, at least in Spain, they're taking your babies.
Yeah.
300,000 is a stunning number, right? Now, and as they're doing that, they're like, oh, yeah, the Jews, they'll take your babies. Where's the babies we put away? Where are they? Like, it's unreal.
Yeah, this is a disastrous story. And let me just tell you guys, some lawyers who are investigating this case say that 300,000 babies were taken from their families and then, you know, put into Catholic homes. Other experts say, no, it was between 30 to 40,000 babies. So
let's be conservative and say 30,000 babies.
I know. The figures, you know, people are disputing the figures, but still 30,000 babies. I mean, how do you do that to so many parents out there and so many babies out there? Because now all of these adults in Spain are finding out that their parents, the people who have raised them, are not actually their biological parents. Some of them even question whether or not they're Spanish.
Yeah, that's terrible. And look, whenever you look into the church, you'll get some people saying, oh, you're being anti-Catholic. But is it pro-Catholic to encourage this, to not find out about this, or whether it's this or the pedophilia that was going on? If you want to help the church, you would want them to stop cooperating with the dictator back then, right? And in this case, stop moving the pedophiles around the churches so they could hurt more kids.
No, this isn't being anti-Catholic, okay? Anti-Catholic would be, we think the Catholic Church was involved, so let's talk crap about Catholic people. No, the Catholic Church was directly involved in this. This is fact. This is something that happened between the 1930s and 1970s in Spain. You know,
and it's not that long ago. It's not like the Crusades in the, you know, in 5 centuries ago or anything like that. 1930s to 1970s.
There's a woman that was interviewed by the BBC. Her name is Manoli Pagador, right? And after she gave birth to her son, he was immediately taken away from her. And the nun there, the nuns were usually nurses within these hospitals. The nun told her, oh, your baby died. And she was too afraid to question it, okay? Because in that time, questioning anything would get you in trouble. So in her heart, she knew, my son's not dead. I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. And just minutes ago, they took him away from me. How is he dead, right? Some of these hospitals kept a dead baby in the freezer. So if the mother questioned it, they would show that baby to the mother and say, see, he died, sorry. I mean, it's a disgusting story. So anybody who looks at this and says, oh, you're reporting it, you're being anti-Catholic, that's ridiculous. This is something that actually happened.
All right, just real quick, repeat for me why they were taking away the babies.
Because the Francisco Franco was a huge supporter of the Catholic Church, right? So what he would do is if there was anybody who was an opponent or criticized his policies, what he would do is he would target those people and say, oh, well, I don't want them raising children. I want to indoctrinate these kids, and I want to do so within the Catholic Church. So he would take the children away from these unfit parents and have them raised by Catholics who supported him.
Oh, yeah. Point of concern. Too soon.
Wow. Oh my gosh, dude. Are you for real right now? Chris, you're on mute. Chris, you're on mute.
Yeah, dude, when I grew up, man, I grew up in the 80s because, like, I'm like almost 48 years old now. I'll be 48 in November. And when I was growing up in the 80s, I remember people like saying, oh, well, the Inquisitions and stuff were so many years ago. And it's like, well, they're just still, like, now I'm putting that back in my mind about how when I was a kid in 1984, and I'm like, wait a minute, 70s? That's actually the same year I was born, 1974, and this was happening in the 70s. So this is still going on in my life. And now when it's like, and then Reagan's removing the law so a Catholic embassy could be created in 1984. But think about that. From 1984 to 1970, they were still in babies from Protestants and not doing nothing. And now you're going to remove laws and create a Catholic embassy. Why? They haven't changed. These are the whole reason for that law being put in place was because they blew Abraham Lincoln's brains out. And now you're thinking, well, that was, over 100 years ago, 150 years ago. We can reestablish an embassy now. Well, they just stole babies in the 1970s, and our CIA definitely knew about it. It's not like all this information is like something new. They know what's going on everywhere. And the Catholics control the CIA. So it's like, it's nothing new. So it's like, when people were just like thinking like, oh, Chris, you're talking about the Catholic Church and pointing out, they're controlling everything. Well, I mean, just this alone, just thinking about the time span between them stealing babies and then Reagan removing those laws and creating the Vatican embassy because, you think they changed?
I don't even know why I'm surprised because, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm surprised and not surprised. That makes sense because just wow.
Yeah. I mean, especially if it's because I didn't even think about it until now. I've heard about this, but I didn't even think about it, when I start thinking about, wow, and Reagan just, less than 10 years later is removing laws. So these same maniacs that were just stealing babies can now be even more part of our government. And not only that, hey, let's do nothing but have a whole cabinet full of them because Reagan had like the most Catholic cabinet ever up until that point. I mean, I think our other presidents might even be more Catholic since Reagan, but up until that point, no, he had the most Catholic cabinet and everything.
Jeez.
So Bjorn says the sacrifice of babies in the Roman Catholic is Baal worship. The priests, the priestess are Moloch killers. Strange. Think to the Mormons have doctrine of the spirit children. I didn't know that.
I knew nothing about that either. I mean, I knew about the book.
What?
Other than that, dude.
Oh, you're gonna let him talk? Okay. Hey, John, what's up, man? What do you want to say?
Just hello. I just finally figured out how to use the Streamlabs thing. I'm just sitting out in my truck here. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning here in Alabama.
Okay, about the same time here. Oh, it's 3 o'clock here.
It's 2 a.m. here.
So we're all kind of Central and East Coast, I guess.
Pretty much, I would assume.
Central time. So I was just screwing around with this thing, trying to. Oh, well, where were you guys at? Because I was trying to get in, so I didn't have any sound going on. I don't know where you're at here on this.
Oh, I was just playing you can say whatever you want, any kind of thoughts you had, man. We were just talking about like I played that whole clip of the Young Turks where they were talking about the stolen baby scandal. And did you catch any of that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah. There's two things I want to say. I remember when you were talking to the gentleman about the Catholic Church I guess it was last week, right? And he was talking about the Inquisition.
The Roman
I want to tell you, I'm an old guy. I'm 64 years old, and I had a little time flying airplanes in my life for the Air Force. So I got to travel a lot. And one trip we did, we went into Torrejon, Spain, which is in Madrid, and we went to Toledo. And it was really neat place to go. It's a medieval city. It's actually just like how it was in the medieval times. They actually live in buildings and structures that were built then. And it was a walled city. The Alcazar is there. It's where the Franco held up during the Civil War. And there's still the damage there from when they were shelling it against the communist revolutionary forces. Anyways, there's a museum there, and it was called. Did you hear me? Right, I wrote something about it, and it's De Tortura de Antigua, Museum of Tortures. And this is in Spain. This is a Catholic country. It basically always has been. for as long, almost in recorded history of Western civilization. And they had the actual torture devices that they used in the Inquisition. They said it there too. This was amazing to be able to go in there. It was a self tour. It was like you're on the honor system going in there, and the devices were actually there. One guy, okay, I flew C-130, so our crew, most of the guys in our crew came. There's like 4 of us. One of the guys, he climbed up on a guillotine. All this stuff was there. There was an Iron Maiden there. If we were super drunk, one of the guys could have been killed in there by the other guy slamming it shut on him. We just stopped it in time, saying there's somebody in there. But they had all these devices in there, and it was incredible. It was an eye-opener to see what they used. During the Inquisition, they tried the people in a court of Dominican priests, and then later the Jesuits took over, and then they would turn them over to the authorities for the punishment and the torture. But the tortures were done by a lot of the inquisitors, and so some of the stuff said that, I forget which one it was, that one of the devices was actually designed by a pope, and they had these things. I could give you the down and dirty on it. You always heard of the cat of 9 tails. I always thought it was a whip. It is what they said by about the 7th or 9th lashing with this, and what it is, it has 9 lashes on it and has those little spiked balls that are woven into the lashes. And the thing's actually, it's brutal. And they said by like the 7th or 9th lashing, the lungs would be showing through the person's back. And then they had these 2 things called the pear. They had different sizes. And one you stuck in a woman's vagina, and it looked like a pear, but you cranked it. And when it opened up, when you cranked it farther, it would spread out. There were like 3 petals on it, and they would spread out, and they would tear the person up from the inside. One was for the vagina, and the other one was for the anus. And then it goes on the rack. Go look it up. It's there. And then, now, have you ever heard of someone being put on the wheel? Have you ever seen anybody? What?
I don't think I've heard of stuff like that. That's just whoa.
Oh yeah, I've
That's
heard
actually
of that.
it's in there.
The cat and nails, I heard of it and I forgot it, man. That's an awesome thing to bring up, man, because it's like, dude, yeah. Just to give people some background, like Fro was really downplaying all of this. So I'm really glad John came on and is talking about this, because it's like, because basically Fro was making it sound like it was like better with the Catholic Church, like they would go, and I think one, I can't remember quite right, because I know I've heard this from other Catholics, but I've heard like other Catholics say sometimes they would blasphemy and stuff, so, or they would do something so they would get thrown into the Catholic jails or something. But hey, go ahead, John. Keep going.
Oh. Well, so I was raised. I went to Catholic school all my life, and until I was 31, I was Catholic, pretty devout too. I mean, even when I was younger, I was from Southern California, and I just was like any Southern California kid. And I would like take my vacations. I only had 2 weeks. You guys work. You know how hard it is when you only get 2 weeks vacation a year, and they're precious when you're young, right? And I would go on retreats, like adult retreats back then, because I thought it would give me more grace to go to heaven, but I wasn't like a saint, believe me. The thing was, if you get to confession before you die, you got it made. So I go out and go screw around, do whatever I want, right? Just as long as I made a confession. I could probably go commit murder just as long as I made it to confession, So chances are I'm not going to die. I'm 21 years old, or 22. So anyways, I was raised Catholic, and I'm old now. I'm 64. My brother's like 76. I have one brother. He just died. He was 80. And so I was kind of tailing Charlie there. So, but I still have like 4 siblings that are still alive. They're still pretty devout Catholics, and they still believe all the doctrine and stuff. But I have one brother that's a traditional Catholic. Now, a traditional Catholic, those are the people that they think that the papacy is in apostasy since Vatican II. So he's old Latin Mass and all that stuff. And like if you talk about John JP2 and Francis and Benedict, you say stuff like, oh, they're the Antichrist. They'll go, oh yeah, they are. But if you say anything before Vatican II, before 1962, they'll go, oh no, that's dogmatically correct, But I talked to him about, I get in arguments with him. I mean, we carpooled down to work in the San Fernando Valley from where we live, and we'd get into debates like every morning. And it just got to the point where I couldn't debate him. And but I said, what about the Inquisition? I go, would Jesus have a church that murdered millions of people? And he actually thinks, just like Flo said, that they were doing it for their soul. Like Jesus would okay them torturing people, torturing children, killing whole villages and everything, because they were doing it for the good of the soul of like society. And that's just the way they think. It's hard to argue with them. You know, and to take it on logically, to have an argument with a devout Roman Catholic or traditional Catholic, because they are, man, they are self-righteous people. Believe me, I grew up in it. I know.
Wow, John, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you came on my show, man, and said all that.
I was in San Diego. I lived, other than my time in the military, I did 10.5 years in the military. But I lived in California most of my life. I was born in 57, grew up in San Fernando Valley, and anyways, lived a lot of Southern California areas. Anyways, I went down to San Diego, and I was just walking along down there one day, and along the ocean front. I went down to buy a metal detector. And I said, I'm gonna kill some time down here. I had to drive like 200 miles to go down there anyways. And I was walking along the waterfront there, and some guy just started talking to me. And so he was a Catholic apologist. What he was doing was there to try to, he was street preaching as a Catholic, which is something that you used to not see too much of. You know, there weren't too many Catholic street preachers, because usually they left that to the clergy, you know. And, you know, lay people weren't supposed to do that. I'm saying when I grew up, then later on, you're starting to see like this more charismatic evangelical movement. He started coming at me with stuff. Now, he is nice, but everything he said, he had no way to refute. And you would do the same thing, Chris. I know you're well versed in this, and you hit them with all these different things, and they just do not. It doesn't faze them. You know, it just they'll still go up. They'll do a reset, and they'll go, yeah, but it's the one and only church. You know, here to give you another example. Did you heard about when they were talking about them saying worshiping Lucifer in 2014 in the Vatican? I think it was an Easter Mass where the the song and stuff, and they have it translated in from Latin to English, you know, and they're saying, oh, Lucifer, Jesus's brother, you know, and it is a worshipful song for Lucifer. And I tell people that, and you think, this is what bothers me. I go, I heard them talking about that when I was driving in my car on some talk radio show, and I couldn't get home fast enough to get on that computer and look it up to see if it was true, right? You tell people that, you think their default would be to go look it up, go see what it is, and then start questioning, but people just don't do that. And I think that's just kind of like a sign of the fallen state we're in this world, that people really don't care. I don't want to black pill people, but don't think this is turning around. You know,
I'm right with you, man, dude. I am 100% with you, man.
Ditto.
You know, if you're young, it's tough. I'm 64, but I have a daughter. I love my daughter. If I didn't have a daughter, you know, my wife and I, we've been married 35 years almost. I have two sons, that one's 32, one's 27, and my daughter, she's 20, but she's the most precious to me because she's a girl. The boys, I raised them. You can take care of yourself, you know. And but if I did, you know, I have my wife too, but I would say just bring it on. I don't care. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to check out. But if you're young, it's a tough pill to swallow. But I guess you just got the few that still have this. If you're on this channel, you probably have the strength, and you're inquiring about God. You have faith in Jesus Christ, so that's what you
Amen.
have. But times are going to get tough, and you have to gird yourself against it. I still have to gird myself against it, and I'm a tough son of a bitch. I am. I'm not blowing smoke. I really am. I've been. That's just the way it is. If you ever met me, you'd see. It's just, if I told you the stories I've been through, I'm just telling you, it's going to be tough, and you have to really strengthen yourself to prepare for it. Because sometimes I go, well, man, if it came to between throwing this is how I go in my head. If it came between throwing my daughter or me being separated from being thrown, how hard would it be for me to be separated from my wife and daughter and sent off to like an internment camp because I stood up for my values. That's the way you got to really think about it. You got to do it by proxy and really gird yourself against it. A lot of people will say, oh no, I'm not going to turn in my guns. Oh no, they aren't going to make me do this. Oh no, I'm not going to take the mark of the beast. They've never had the man standing on their neck. They've never looked down a barrel of a gun and seeing those rounds inside the chamber. They don't know until you get there. They've never been arrested. They've never been handcuffed. They've never been shackled up. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying a lot of them that say that have no clue what could be coming. You know, we've been lucky in this country to not see anything. You know, you go talk to people from another country, they'll tell you they've seen it, and they you know, they'll understand it. Here, unless you've seen it, unless you've had it, you may not know if you're ready for it. Anyways, I've been yakking a lot.
Oh, no, John, I loved it. I loved it, John. I loved it, man. I loved it, man. Dude, that is my exact feelings, but you said it so good, dude. Like, I loved how you said it, man, because, I mean, I feel the same way, man, and I am, like, dude, even myself, I'm like, I think about all these horrible scenarios, and I keep playing them in my head. I'm like, am I ready? Am I ready? And what do I got to do to, like, you know, be more prepared and to make sure I'm gonna be willing to go through this if I have to, if I'm put in that position, you know. And it's like other people, man, I look at them, dude, and I feel like their heads is a bit in the clouds, to say the least. And dude, I mean, I really wonder about other people, man, because it's like I just don't like. I mean, I wonder about myself, man, and it's like, and I'm kind of pretty much aware, like the same things you are. And I just, like, I'm really scared for other people, man. And it's like, I mean, yeah, man, it's like, and yeah, I just see it, everything the way you are. And I keep pressing myself, man, like I got to get it more together. And because I don't kid myself either,
yeah.
Man.
I'm going to say this. This how he was talking. This brings back memories of my mom, and he reminds me a lot of my mom because she was like that too, like a fighter and everything else like that. Even before she died, she was a diehard truth teller and everything. She was, I would say, the soldier of the bunch because she knew what she was doing. It was like, whoa. And this brings back more of those memories.
See, I haven't been through what John's been through. I can just kind of feel it in his voice. Like because I've been through some situations where I know what I'll do, and I've been tested, but I think John's been through even more, and even he, you know, still like, I know he's still like, hey, I got to even be prepared, you know, and
he's passionate about it.
Yeah. And
we moved back to Alabama, Auburn, Alabama. It's a nice little, it's like kind of like 1980s. Well, they're changing too. But compared to California, I don't know if you guys know, California's turned to crap. You know, I mean, it used to be it was the best state in the world. But there is not, I'm telling you, growing up in California in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when I've been around, it was like it was, the streets were paved with gold. It was really a great place to live. I surfed and I went skiing in the same day. I was a little poor white boy. Grew up first, you know, we had 8 kids in our family. There's feast or famine, you know. My dad had a gas station. He lost it. You know, we were broke. You know, sometimes I had ketchup sandwiches in my lunch. You know, I just got, you know, everybody has their stories, but I had it better than people over in any other parts of the world, you know. Hey, I had it good too, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to think how I got this, but I do that at times now. But I'm trying to think where I was going with this. Anyways, I've just seen a lot of shit. Excuse my language. I was also in the Marine. I was also in the Marine Corps too. Before I went in the Marine Corps, before I went in the Air Force, I was enlisted in the Marine Corps. So it's hard to take that Marine Corps voice out, you know, that language out. You know, you're 4 years of that stuff, and you get passionate. It becomes the vernacular. I try not to cuss as much. Oh, so anyways, California was a lotus land. It was beautiful. So anyways, but it's not the same place anymore. And we moved to Alabama. It's really nice here. So I come here. This is the Bible Belt, right? I figured these guys knew about the Bible. I grew up not knowing about the Bible. I had catechism. You know, there's no chapter and verse, anything like that. It was just all that repetitive stuff from the catechism and mostly the mass and stuff. It's all repeated every week, same thing, you know, just a little different sermon. So I come down here to Alabama, and these guys down here, they all believe in the rapture, the pre-trib rapture, and a lot of the Pentecostal stuff's really a lot through this place. But I don't know if you guys believe in. I don't believe in the pre-trib rapture myself. I believe that we're all, and this is the thing. There's another bone of contention is the pre-trib rapture. It was a late thing by Darby that came where it was really pushed to a degree, and then there was a Jesuit priest that was involved with it too at around the same time. And it just blows my mind that people think that we live in America. Let me tell you, this is the best country in the world, bar none. Nothing compares to the United States as far as just our standard of living here, just for the general person too. And during the best of times now, we don't have to go out into a field and go plow it or go work as child laborers in a factory or a slaughterhouse or anything like that, or just, you know, put in 16 hours a day as a child like they did in like 1890. You know, we have it pretty darn good. And people think that we're going to get taken away on a magic carpet ride when things get tough, that we're the special ones. We're better than the Catholics that not the Catholics, the apostles, the disciples, the early church, the ones that during the Roman times of Nero and through Constantine finally stopped the persecution of Christians to a degree. And then during the Inquisition, so we think I'm saying the Christians, the American Christians too, think that they're better, that they're going to get the magic carpet ride and say, oh, no, I don't have to be around when the mark of the beast comes, and I don't have to go through any suffering. I think that's a bunch of hogwash. And I don't know, is that part of what you think the futurists teach? I don't know how you guys feel about the rapture. I don't believe in the rapture.
I think it's unhealthy to believe in because you know, people before us died, you know, right? And my whole thing is you're going to go through tribulations in life, like just even like, you know, like where, oh man, I got to give up my job for this moral reason. You're going to be tested for things like that, you know. I mean, I know I've been through tests, you know, and it's like, and I mean, they were some tough tests, man, and I'm just like, okay, there might be even more tests like this that come around, you know, that, you know, and it's like you're getting tested for things. What about all the Protestants that went through like the Inquisitions and things like that, you know, that were burned alive just for trying to translate the Bible and hand out the Bible in English and things like that? And you're telling me, like, look at all that horrible stuff they did. And that, you know, when, like you said, when it's one thing to think you're ready, it's another thing to actually have to stand there. You know, like those people, you know, knew they were watching other people they knew get burned slowly, you know, right, and things like that. And it's like, you got to think in your mind, man, I already heard this dude do it and this dude do it. And yeah, I'm still going to go out and do it. Like, you actually know the threat. Like, this isn't like something like some future, like they were like walking around doing that. You read in your local papers or you heard stories. You knew they were actually doing this stuff. So it's like, so you knew you were under threat, and they were going through it. But you know, you're telling me there's going to be something in tribulation that's going to be even worse, or it's in that God's going to like take and save you before that. Like, I see that's like, I just don't even know. Like, it doesn't, like, I like those people, if they were thinking about the, like, oh, I'm going to be raptured up. Like, would they been prepared? Like, I don't know, man. Like,
exactly.
I wonder. It's like, so I think it's unhealthy in that aspect, you know. You know, I mean, because if it happens, it happens. I mean, if I'm wrong, I mean, I really don't think I'm wrong. I don't believe in it. Like you said, I think it's a futurist thing. I think it's another fairy tale to make futurism sound good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's just what, you know, Satan works in, you know, he's got a well-oiled machine, just a great machine as far as deceit goes, you know, and he works innocuously and incrementally. And I think that was an incremental thing to kind of weaken people for really, you know, for one, I think the tribulation has been going on almost since Christ ascended into heaven. When you get right down to it, all the struggles that people have gone through. And like you say, we face our own tribulations. But we really haven't been put to the gun yet, or, you know, put to the stake yet, or anything where we're gonna have to sit there and say, you know, do I choose Christ or do I choose my life? And anyways, I think the pre-tribulation rapture, I'm 64, so no one even really talked about it. That was, Catholics never believed in it, really. It was never a doctrine. But even from other people, you didn't hear about anything of the rapture, generally, until you started hearing it, like maybe leaking in a little bit in the 70s and then the 80s and the 90s. I mean, it's been around for a while, but not really like how it has swept through all of American evangelical, Protestant, general, not all, everything, but a lot of American Christianity has swept through. And that's due to Dallas Theological Seminary, Moody Bible Institute. They've all adopted the Schofield Study Bible also. I mean, you get these polluted. That's what, I never even knew about the Geneva Bible until you told me about it. You told your audience about it. So I have to get one and start reading it. I didn't even know about it until you started talking about it. But I think these other doctrines slip in, and there is a difference between the King James and a lot of the other ones, though, to a degree, because some people will send you stuff, and I'll look at it, and then I check it against the King James to see what it actually translates to, and that's not it's not like the acid test for anything, but I could tell there's subtle differences between, let's say, the NIV and the King James, where you could take it a different way.
I was going to say, if you're looking for a Geneva Bible, you can check on this website called Patriot Depot, and they have the original edition, and then they have the Patriots edition. So if you're looking for that, Patriot Depot would be your number one place to go to if you're looking for that.
Which one do you think I should get? What do you recommend?
I recommend just getting the regular $15.99. Only because it gets down in depth into a little bit more. If you get the Patriot Edition one, it has Declaration of Independence. I think it has the Constitution there as well. But in my opinion, I think your best bet would be the regular $15.99 edition.
Oh, okay, I'll look for that one.
Yeah, I need to pick that one.
Why don't you tell you something about history that you made me think of something? I am in a club with a couple guys. It's a geeky club, It's not. These guys are like my age or a little younger, and a couple of them are professors and stuff. Just to show you, because we all know about the assassination of Lincoln, right? And
yeah.
I believe that we all believe it was a Jesuit conspiracy. I think, right, to a degree, with the Surratt. You guys know about it?
Yeah, the Lincoln.
And they're one of the guys in my group is a history professor at a major university. And we were sitting there. One guy listened to the Civil War, something that came up about Lincoln assassination. I said, yeah. I said, did you know that on the night that Lincoln was assassinated, these guys did it, and the other guys got a PhD in paleontology too. I mean, there's a few here. These are pretty educated guys and got pretty good jobs in academia. And I said, did you know that Lincoln, the night Lincoln was assassinated, they also tried to take out the Secretary of War? Because back then the Secretary of Defense was called the Secretary of War. And they tried to take out the Vice President. And they kind of didn't believe me, and I just was going back and forth. They're trying to contest me on Andrew Johnson was the Vice President. But I've seen even the history professor and another guy that just did a 20-volume study on the Civil War. They had no clue that it was actually a plot to take out the head of the United States government by virtually a Jesuit conspiracy of the Surratt family, Booth, and a few others. And ultimately how they didn't know anything about chasing down John Surratt, and where they found him at the Vatican, that he was helped taken away through, he went to Montreal, and then he went to Ireland, and all these Jesuit way stations. And ultimately he made it to the Vatican, and he was one of the Pope's bodyguards. And they had no clue about this. And that just shows you how just such a significant part of our history is hidden, and how a lot of the Jesuit conspiracy has been completely covered up and kind of flushed down the memory hole in this country and the world too.
That's a good point, man. You bring up, because I've talking to like a lot of historians too, like a few of them, and you'd be surprised, like these guys, man, could just like, I mean, they got such amazing knowledge, and it kind of blows you away that they don't know about that detail, like, or never even heard of it, never had it brought up to them. Like that really blows me away, man. Because these guys some of these guys were professors for 20 years. Not to mention like all the stuff, but they're professors for 20 years.
Yeah, they're befuddled when you can lay it on them, and they know that you aren't kidding, or it's not like some urban legend, that it's actual fact. And it blows me away that very few people know about that. When you think of the American population, what do you think? 1 in 10,000 know about it? I don't know. It might be that low. If you were to go on the street, you go, hey, what happened on the night that Lincoln was assassinated? They wouldn't know that the Secretary of War and the Vice President, they also tried to take them out too. And
I think they would know about them trying to take the Vice President and the Secretary of War. But the thing is, I don't think they would know the Jesuits had anything to do with it. They wouldn't understand that there was any connection to the Catholics. Like, they definitely don't know, like, John Surratt was a Catholic. And they definitely they don't know anything about Thomas Harris and all that.
Right. Yeah, I just don't think they know. These are history professors. They didn't know that the other parties were taken out, or that there was an assassination attempt on them too. These are educated guys here in the South. I just don't think. I could go around. I just should try it and see, But not too many people would know that. They don't think that was just Lincoln, that he was shot in the theater by John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth ran away on a horse, and they got him in a barn and killed him. I think that's as far as they know. They don't even know that probably that 5 other people were hung over it,
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're talking about the average person, no. All they know is that first part. They chased them down, killed them in a barn, and that's pretty much where the story ends. They don't know any other details. They don't know anyone else got killed. And when you're talking to history professors, they might know that people got killed, but they definitely don't. Like, I don't know if I've ever heard. I mean, my mind's kind of fuzzy, but I don't think they even knew about John Surratt hiding out in the Vatican.
No, that's just, I didn't know about it till not that long ago, till probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And then I bought that book by Harris.
I think I meant John Surratt. I don't know what I just said.
Yeah. No, you said Surratt hiding out in the Vatican. Right. Yeah, I mean, it was quite a story. And then I forget what I heard about Charles Chenequet, and then I've heard about Harris, General Harris, right? It's his book.
Brigadier Thomas Harris. Yeah. Yeah,
and he was right there. He was there at the tribunal. I think before, the tribunal for Surratt, and then later, for Mary Surratt and all of them, and then at the later one with John Surratt, when they finally captured him, or finally took him after their chase all around the world. And I think they said he was acquitted just based on the fact that I think it was probably an Irish jury, that acquitted him.
I think what it was they had a couple of Roman Catholics on there, and that's why he got acquitted. Because you got to have you got to have 100% jury, and because there was a couple of Roman Catholics on there, that was enough to make him victim.
Yeah, enough to turn him loose.
Yeah. So I mean, if anyone doubts this, I mean, right here's like the book from. It's not December 12th. This must be like a republished one. The original one's like from 1880 or 1890, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I want to pull up But yeah, I mean, right here he goes into it. The same guy, General Thomas Mealy Harris. This is another book of his, The Assassination of Lincoln, a history of great conspiracy, the trial of the conspirators by the military commission, and the review of the trial of John H. Surratt. I can't remember if this one goes into, because he's got two books. One's called The Rome's Responsibility for the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln, where he goes into the details about how all the co-conspirators were Roman Catholics and there was enough evidence to convict the Pope. And I think like another one is like a book where he kind of wrote it officially for the United States government, where there was just little pieces of that in there. If I'm correct, I haven't read that one yet. I think someone was just telling me about it. And I think there's like a previous one to the one called Rome's Assassination for the Abraham Lincoln. The one before that's the one where he didn't go into the whole Catholic thing that much. But,
yeah, that's the one I have, is the first one, Rome's Responsibility for the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
yeah, that's the only one I've read.
It's a quick read. It's pretty revealing. It's good enough to carry around with you if you get a doubter, and you can show them, hey, here it is. That's why I've been buying books lately, just to have just as reference material to show people, rather, because it's easier to read it on a Kindle, and it's cheap too. You can get, but it's harder to take a Kindle to somebody and say, hey, go ahead and read this, when you're done with it, give it back to me or pass it on. So lately I've been buying more books again. Do you have that book, Code Word Babylon?
I have not read that. I've listened to Brett Norman read it, and him and his friends that sometimes do a show, they go over it, but I haven't read it myself.
Yeah, you get it pretty cheap on that. I think it's Libre Press. It is, I think, something like that. But on Amazon, they want like $300, but on the other one, you can get it for like $40. And I started reading. It's pretty interesting. It has a lot of material about the Jesuits and the RCC. And I have both volumes of it. But when I moved here 2 years ago, I think it's up in my attic somewhere. I haven't unpacked it. I need to chase that down. But that has a lot of information, and it's more like a compilation per se, rather than. It seems like it's a what do you call it? When you like clip it or copy and paste type of deal. That's what it seems like to me, to a degree. Where it's just a bunch of code word Babylon, where they kind of it seems like there's a lot of different little stuff that they put together, like compiled in it. I shouldn't say that, but it seems like it has a lot of information from when I started reading it. Then we started getting ready to leave, and I stashed it away. I have to find it again.
All right. Is that a book you liked a lot? Because, man, I can't really remember that book myself.
From what I only got like maybe to 60 pages into it, then we were getting ready to move, and I packed it away. I haven't unpacked it. I need to pull it out again. It seemed pretty interesting. It's kind of like how Operation Gladio was. How broken down, and it's kind of like that. Operation Gladio was a good book.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
like
really
that's like a musket then, because I think Operation Gladio, everyone should read that book. I mean, it's like the Bible, and then Operation Gladio might be like one of the second most important books to read.
I
if you
agree.
Understand what's going on, at least.
Yeah, so I'd go into work, and I tell the guys there, and it's about, this is what's going on. You guys, the people have this think like American exceptionalism, like we don't do anything wrong, that we're all good. I was that guy too when I was younger, but then I changed. You get wiser as you get older. But up until I was 30, I was Johnny Patriot. America couldn't do any wrong. We should go. Yankee imperialism is good for the world. All that crap, right? But so I tell these guys, this is what to do. If you don't, this is what this filthy country did. Not us. It's like any country. It's never the people. It's the leaders. And just what you read the book, and the evidence is overwhelming, and it's never been refuted either. Really, I don't see any refutation to Operation Gladio like oh, it didn't happen, or that's just a bunch of nonsense, or it's a conspiracy theory. It's just basically they acquiesce to it that it actually did happen that way. But it just shows what they'll do, and we knew they'd do it. But the evidence is there that they would do stuff like that, all those false flags and stuff, and just trying to paint just do such things to make it look like it was a left-wing infiltration of Europe, and where they bomb people and shoot them and do all this stuff, and it was all controlled by CIA, MI6, and all the alphabet agencies. And then also, like you said, then Rome's part in it. I mean, to tie it all in, the unholy alliance of Rome laundering the money, the bank of the Vatican bank, that would launder the drug money, feed it here, feed it there. They're completely complicit in this whole operation. It's very revealing, even to the heroin epidemic in Harlem in the 1940s and 50s. And that's how, it's just the same thing that they learned from that. They learned from the opium wars that they could use opium to for money for their military operations, and then so they learned from that. Some guy that happened to be in China at that time, an American, and then he told like the OSS CIA folks at the demise at the end of World War II that, hey, this is how we could finance these stay behind armies is the heroin trade, and then how they used like Lucky Luciano and them to bring in heroin into Harlem, sell it, get money for their black ops per se, or their stay behind armies. And then ultimately you see that happen again, and it happened probably during the Vietnam War. I haven't delved into the Bermuda Triangle, or what do they call it, the Golden Triangle, of all the heroin and stuff coming back into the United States from Vietnam. But the Iran-Contra deal, when they were bringing in all the cocaine into the United States, I've kind of looked at that pretty closely. And it's just all the same kind of crap. And then probably like the heroin, the opium stuff that went on in Afghanistan, that was probably a further iteration of it. But the other stuff is factual. Like Operation Gladio paints it going back to like the 1940s and 50s.
I want to kind of make a comment because Kelvy says, I'm not a patriot, but this country is still the best. The Constitution can't function without acknowledgement of a God. The ship is hijacked and doesn't make the ship evil. And one thing I want to add to that is like, I'm also like not one of these people that's like, oh, everything's hopeless and don't get involved and just stay out of things. Like, man, like I try my best, man, to get involved as much as I can. Like I work 70 hours a week, but I still try to support like good local politicians, what few there are. And it's like, I wish if I could, like, honestly, like people who have time, I honestly believe it's just 10 people would go to their local could just get 10 people together to go monthly to a local Republican meeting. And I know like a lot of people are going to just yell at me and be like, Chris are both control. 10 people, if they were as knowledgeable as me and John, like if me and John and about 8 other people like us went there once a month and could just put these people in the spotlight, like really put them in the spotlight and really like not let them escape, I could change this whole thing around. Like, I don't think it takes like everybody doing it. I think it just takes like 10 in each like little city or in each little like division of the city, where they have all these little meetings. And I think all it would take, man, and put these people on blast and wake them up. If not, I mean, if that didn't wake them up, just 10 people, then it does deserve judgment. But like, you can't even hardly find one person that will go there and just put these people on the spot,
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like I'm just telling people, because I know a lot of people have everyone say, "Oh, you went to that. You're just so stupid." And it's like, no, man. Honestly, you can really make these people squirm, man. Like, I wish I had time to go there, because just one voice in there and watching them squirm and call them out, dude, like they can't hide. And then you see these other people, and they're kind of like, wow, that makes sense, and you kind of jarred them, but. If I just go there like once every couple of years, because that's all I got time for due to my job, it's like, like those people forgot, like they done had everyone talking back out of that. Like they started to wake up, and then all of a sudden everyone like, no, I go back to sleep, and but I mean, God, people, I'm telling you, man, it just takes like a couple of people to like showing up, and then that way, they're now I mean, at least maybe they'll run someone else who might be corrupt, but they got to hide it better. At least make them hide it better.
Yeah.
And I think if you just make them hide it better, things can be a little bit better. But man, I think it's getting to the point to where they almost don't even need to hide it, man. It's like everyone's gotten so dumb, man, and like no one's saying anything, no one's speaking out. It's like so. I just wanted to kind of chime that in because that's what his comment made me think of.
Yeah, you can do it for yourself too. Like me, I'll go down swinging. That's me. I'm gonna keep punching.
Yeah.
Even if I think I'm gonna lose, if I was fighting Mike Tyson, he's gonna kick my butt. I'm still gonna keep punching him. I'm not gonna let him punch me without me throwing back at him. He's got to knock me out. That's the way I say I'm gonna go down swinging. I'm not gonna roll over and just take it.
Yeah. And plus, you don't know how much longer this world's gonna be around. I mean, what about your kids? That's how I'm thinking about my kids, man. It's like, dude, I'm trying to make this world as bad. I mean, at least, if this world sucks, man, I'm going to be like, look, kids, I'm like, that's the thing I tell myself every day. Like, anytime I think about doing some kind of like stupid little, like trivial thing, or even like trying to, giving into some selfish pleasures I'm doing, I'm going to be like, dude, you're going to feel a lot better, man, if you just ignore that and do something for your kids. Cause just think, man, like you won't feel like because I see the world's going to be bad, man. Like it's getting bad. And I at least want to be able to tell myself, at the end of the day, man, like, look, dude, even if the world's bad, even if your kids got to go through it, at least you try to do everything you could do. That's all I'm trying to push myself to do.
Well, that is just outstanding. That's what I say, that I know you can look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I did my best for, I didn't roll over, just accept it. And I did my best for my children. And that's all you can do. That's the measure of a man, really, not how much money you have or any of this other crap. Is how you basically your character and what basically what you do for your children, to me, your family and those around you. And if you just stand up for what's the truth, stand up for the truth is the most important thing. That's I guess what I'm getting at in a nutshell. And it's a process too, titrating the truth of just like you having to believe in certain things. Just like I said, I'm still Johnny Patriot. I just don't back certain things like the Vietnam War. Like I used to think it was a just war and all this crap, right? When I see what it was for, it did different things. I don't back that stuff. I still back up the principles of the United States, what it was founded on, but they've been perverted over the years. Like just like the Bible has been perverted by the I'm going to go back to this, by the Catholic Church with all their canon law and stuff. Here you have this beautiful book that has and then the New Testament too is just the perfect way to live a life, I think. The perfect rule book to live by is what Jesus taught us in the 4 Gospels even. And then it's been perverted over the years, and they started throwing all this different stuff in. And that's what they've done with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights with these witch doctors that are known as lawyers and judges, And and ultimately the lawyers and judges ended up taking over being politicians. For the longest time in Washington, I'd say 60% of the Congress were lawyers, and it's all been twisted and convoluted, over the course of 200 and what is it now? 60 years, no, 200 and bicentennial is 76. It's like 250 years. It's all been twisted to something that it vaguely resembles what it started out to be.
All right, well, hey everyone, I think we're gonna have to go because the show's 3 hours, man. I kind of told myself I was gonna make it stick at 3 hours. John, I think like you coming on was like a great kind of finish up to the show. I liked how you brought all that stuff up, especially about the Inquisition and stuff when you first got on. I thought that was really good, man. Really, dude, it's awesome actually hearing you, man. I'm glad I finally got to talk to you and hear you on my show, man.
Yeah, I finally figured out how to do that Streamlabs thing.
All right, awesome, man. Maybe you can come on again. Like, you're always welcome, especially if I'm on. You start getting on this topic, man. You're definitely more than welcome. Like, I don't care who I got up here. So
Yeah, I enjoy listening to your shows. You bring stuff in that's like you're not like I know it all, or you're open minded to a degree. You know what I mean? Like, we're all open minded to it. Well, no, we all have our own opinions, but some people just won't hear anything else. And you're willing to listen to the other. You're willing to listen. That's what's good about your show. Like how you said with Jamie. I don't know about him. I just heard about it recently, but he shouldn't be afraid, because you give him his chance to say his piece without a doubt.
yeah, I think, man,
I should let
he's
you guys.
afraid his world's gonna collapse, dude. Once he talks to me, like, I honestly think he's fighting some cognitive dissonance right now. I mean, some serious cognitive dissonance, and he's trying to hold on to it, because I actually think he's got a lot of pride. For that church, he said a lot of things to a lot of people, and he probably feels like if he actually had to confront it, he'd have to eat a lot of his words.
Yeah.
And then he's got family that died Seventh Day Adventist, and I don't know what he's thinking, like, because he's probably thinking, oh, these people outside this church are probably going to hell, and I don't know what he's thinking, but like, if you're thinking, like, but if he was to be thinking that. And then you're thinking, like, but we're the true church, at least we're safe. But if you're suddenly thinking, well, wait a minute, all those thoughts I thought about someone being in a false church and what might happen to them, like Mormons and things like that. But if I'm actually in that church, then what happened to my whole family, and what have I been preaching? And my whole life, I grew up in this church. You mean my whole life is a lie? Like, that's a hard thing, man. I was watching this show where all these like Seventh Day Adventists, they were actually like dealing with actually like accepting that like Ellen White was a false prophet, and they were like, dude, I got a lot of cognitive dissonance right now. That's all they kept bringing up, was like how hard it was on them. Like, it was so unbelievable.
Yeah, would you think it was the hard part was the social factor, or do you know that they're being separate? They're going to be separated from their social network, like the Mormons. Like a lot of Mormons, they'll say they found out it was false, but the hard thing was if they said that they no longer had the burning in their bosom and to believe that Joseph Smith was the prophet, and they get separated, they'll break up families in the Mormon church. The wives will go one way, and then they'll kick the husband has to go out another way. Sometimes the kids have rejected the parents. It's just crazy if you've ever gone into the same thing with the Mormons. But do you think that Seventh Day Adventists have that same thing, like where they're like, if you left the church, do they outcast you or ostracize you? You think?
To a degree. I mean, like with their leadership, their leadership, man, has everything ripped away from them. If they like try to say anything like you doubt 1844, you doubt Ellen White in the slightest bit. Like, they keep saying you're like, Jamie keeps making it sound like, oh, you're allowed to. But dude, I just watched all these shows, man, of these like ex Seventh Day pastors and people who worked inside the church and losing their jobs and things, or just like having some doubts about Ellen White. And so, yeah, I mean, dude, that's like, I mean, like, I don't know what his parents do, or how tied up his parents are in the church, but it could be possible to do that. It could be real damaging if they're high up in the church and they lose a position, and they're preaching. And I mean, also, not only that, I mean, to realize your mom and dad and your dead grandparents, are like Seventh Day Adventists, and they're actually in a cult. You're all in a cult. Like, I mean, because probably like a lot of his friends and family and church members are all this, like, and it's like you will feel a bit of a detachment, because you eventually have to confront them on the issues that you're having problems with. And once you do, it's like, where do you go from there? And I just think there's a lot of various issues, and I don't think he likes how I called it out by saying, yeah, if you stay in there and it's a false church, you're propping it up just like you are the Catholic Church and all these other churches. And I don't think people want to hear that. It's like a Catholic probably wants to find every reason to keep going to a Catholic church so they can keep all their family and friends and connections. And I imagine, you know,
yeah.
And dude, like, I mean, honestly, like the reason why I even brought up this Seventh Day Adventist subject was because, you know, I'm raising 2 children. They got a school, the Seventh Day Adventist school. And I'm like, so like about 7 months ago, I started looking into them a little bit more because I was like, man, I mean, they do keep the Sabbath. Man, I can get my kids, send my kids there because I'm a Sabbath keeper. So I'm like, man, maybe I can send my kids there. And I was like, I'll dig into it a little bit more. And when I started digging into it, I found all this stuff. I'm like, no. And I had to keep convincing myself because there's a lot of social factors, man, that want me to push my kids and put them into like a good school. And I'm like homeschooling them now, but I'm like, man, maybe they need that socialism. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know if they can have that socialization there, man, because I can't feel good about that. So, and then I just keep digging into it. And so if someone like me is feeling compelled, I can only imagine how much more someone who's actually in it. Because if you leave it, then where do you network? You know, who do you use for support? You know, like if you're like, where do you send your kids to school now and all this other stuff? You know, it's like, I imagine there's a lot, you know, to like, especially once you're already in it, to walk away.
Yeah, and he, like, if he has a YouTube channel where he's talking about it, he's pretty deep into it.
Yeah,
I know there's always something could happen.
Well, he made it sound like,
you know, he can get his moment like Saul. What's that?
He made it, like I said, he made it sound like he wasn't really into it. He kind of, and I even saw someone else who made a comment like, hey, Jamie, I thought you weren't a Seventh Day Adventist. And he's like, oh, I am. And I started thinking about it. And now I'm like, you know, I'm proud to be one. And when he said proud to be one, I guess it's what also hurt me, because I'm like, well, you're the same people that lied to me and did all this stuff. And because I'm starting to think about my beef with Walter Baith, his people being attacked, you know, for calling out Eric Phelps. And then all that backlash I got, you know, 10 years ago and since then from calling out him and Eric Phelps. And, you know, so it's like, and also when I go to their church and they're lying to my face inside our church. So you're lying, you're lying in the name of Jesus. You know, you're like at a church, you're supposed to represent holiness, but you're telling me a bold-faced lie by telling me this woman wrote all this herself. You know, I guess that's like the kicker for me. It's like you're using God's name, you know, and doing all these lies inside of like God's name. I mean, like, I think you guys are going to burn in hell, man, forever. Yeah, I know he only thinks hell's like a second. You go poof, but.
No, that's right. You know, I happened to listen to Johnny Cerrucci today, and he had some lady on. He goes into a lot of it with the Seventh Day Adventist lately, right? And that's how I just happened to listen to this thing today, and that's how I found out that they're talking about how long the torment lasts, you know. And they're saying like pretty much the Seventh Day Adventist said you just burn up, and as soon as you're burnt up, it's done, right?
Yeah.
I think that's their doctrine. And he was just saying that there's other stuff that points to it being eternal. And I didn't know that until he mentioned it today.
Was he? See, I quit listening to Johnny just because I got frustrated with him. Just wanted him to quit cussing so I could hook him up with $100,000 a year job, but he wouldn't do it. So so I just got frustrated, man, because I was like, I wonder how serious you are. But is he still doing something with Steve Wahlberg?
Yeah. I listen to him on occasion. No, it wasn't Wahlberg. He was saying it. He had some gal on who was from Europe. I think she's from the Netherlands. And I didn't know her. I was like, I forget what I was doing some other stuff. But he happened to bring it up. But he has Wahlberg on a lot. And I think he saw the Seventh Day Adventists that they talk about the Jesuits and stuff a lot, so he tied in there with not that he's going to be, he is one. He's he's not, but he has some alliance with them. You know what I mean? He doesn't. He sees that there is some. If
they're not against us, if they're not
Right. Yeah.
something like that. Like, because you're basically fighting the same enemy as how he sees it. Yeah, I used to kind of think that, and I'm like, after I did more research, I'm like, no, they're actually a big, huge, humongous part of the problem. So it's
and I think he sees that now too. I think he sees that now too. That they could be possibly like, I think he might even, I can't say that. Maybe it was you that said that. He thinks that they're a Jesuit, kind of like psyop per se.
Oh, I definitely do. I 100% think that, because to me, they preach a brand of futurism. Even they deny it, but they actually do, and they're couching themselves as historicists, because and I think the only reason why they keep calling themselves historicists is because they want to be associated with the Protestants. So what they do is they get to be associated with the Protestants by calling it, but they're muddying the water, because that's not historicism what they're teaching. They're teaching futurism, but they're doing it under the guise of historicism. And they're turning people away, because I tried to suggest this one girl. I said, hey man, you should hey girl, you should check out Carl Tester. He's an awesome historicist. And she's like, oh no, I don't like historicism after I know, or Uriah Smith. She brought up Uriah Smith, and she's like, yeah, that's why I don't like your historicism. I read some of Uriah Smith. I was like, and I was like, wait, that's SDA. So see, this is another thing. And then I heard Jamie on show saying, yeah, I'm a historicist, and that kind of started burning at me, because I'm like, no, you just just before I met Jamie, I was talking to that woman. I was like, okay, she got turned away from historicism because the SDA church was telling her this is historicism, and she says it sounded like junk to her. And so I started looking at their church. I'm like, well, okay, you guys keep saying you're historicists, but you're turning people away from it. You're not doing any good. So that's why I think they're a perfect Jesuit agent. I think they're like the third part of it, man. It's like preterism, futurism, and then Seventh Day Adventist pseudo-historicism.
Now, isn't Vythe separated from the mainstream now, or is like Vythe and Hughes? Aren't they? Are they now broken away, like a splinter group now, that the main body of the Seventh Day Adventist recognized, like the RCC? Like they aren't saying the RCC anymore.
I did not know that, but I would think that that's another control opposition thing, because I've called Vythe out, and I wonder if they do those things to kind of help protect them, like give themselves a little separation, so some things don't come back to haunt Vythe and the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's like, hey, you did have a white supremacist on your show, Vythe. Well, and maybe secretly they go, well, I'll just pretend to splinter away from you and still be a Seventh-day Adventist. And I don't know. Like, I always wondered, like, because to me, I think he's still kind of pushing the same SDA messages, isn't he?
Yeah, I still think he's on the same. His productions are pretty big. Aren't they those amazing, whatever they're called?
But I didn't know he broke away. I mean, you might be right. I mean, he did make some video talking. I'm not sure if it's him, but I know there have been a couple of SDAs that said they're afraid Jesuits have infiltrated them. And I'm like, no, they've always been there, man. And it's like they've been running your thing, and you're just. But they're like, yeah, they've infiltrated, and they're bringing it up all the time. And I think that's just to keep some people in. Like, yeah, we're still a good church. They're even calling out the Jesuits that are infiltrating, and I'm sure they can play it and be like, yeah, the Jesuits love to infiltrate things. They're just trying to infiltrate it. Like, not that they already controlled it. No, they're trying to infiltrate it. That's just my take on it. I just think it's a game.
So you see that, yeah. Well, after I let you go to bed, you're probably pretty tired, and I got.
It's 3.5, man. I don't know. I want to keep these shows watchable. I know people don't watch them once they go over 3. So,
yeah.
So, anyone else want to say anything you want? And Mike, I saw you just join. You want anything to say before we cut out?
No. I just think it's genius. I'm trying to read that second paragraph, the second to the last sentence. This guy in charge of these people, General Russell. I think that's hilarious.
Oh, like in Jamie Russell. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh my gosh, Mike, you're too funny, dude. You do have some good ones sometimes, man. Man. All right. Anything else you need to add, Mike, or is that it?
No. I was just so surprised to see you still all going at it, and y'all have a good night.
All right. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining, man.
Hey, you too.
All right. And John, anything you want us to add before you go?
No. Thanks for having the live show tonight, and they're always interesting.
Hey, man, thank you. I mean, yeah, you helped make it interesting, man. I hope to have you on again.
No, yeah, I just enjoy. I enjoy talking to people that are interested in this stuff, but a lot of people aren't, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, man. Like I you know, when I start these shows, I never know where to go. So this is really cool, man. And you got a better memory. I can't believe some of the things you pulled out of that book. Like I couldn't recall some of that stuff. So that's really awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm always amazed at like how the people's recall. I think almost everybody's got better recall than me. So and it's like it just amazes me. But anyway, Bellinger, you got anything you want to say before you go?
I would say this for everyone out there. Don't always believe what you see. Always do your homework like what Chris does. Because every day truth is being hidden. And it's up to us individuals, not just me and Chris, but everyone else in general, to do your research because you never know what you're going to find. You never do. So let's keep searching, keep digging, and you'll be amazed what you can find. I mean, here I am, 26 years old. I've been trying to find all this stuff out since I was a teenager. And everything that I've learned growing up and from what my mother taught me, it served me well. And God on top of that as well.
Wow, man, you're in a good spot for 26, man.
Yeah.
Experience, what do you expect?
Oh man, yeah, I'm just like, dude, I did not know all this when I was 26, so.
Oh, I was in a good spot for sure. I was in a really good spot.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, someone put you in a good spot, man. So. All right, man. I'm gonna shut the show down.
Yeah, your mother sounds like she's well grounded. Okay.
All right, yeah, man. It was really awesome talking to y'all. I think this was one of my best shows, so thanks. Yeah, I mean, y'all helped make it one of the best shows. So I really like this show. I can't wait to tell people about it. So thanks.
All right. Good night.
Yep. Good night.